So hello everybody on this second day of the Orange AI Africa. I'm very glad to be here with you today to moderate these panels. We have three panels today in this second day, and we will go for these discussions on ground field experiences on AI and data one by one. Let me, before getting into introducing the people, the amazing guests we're having today, introduce the general framework of this event, if we can call it like this, since we are discussing frameworks when it comes to data. So this event is organized with Orange Digital Center, and Orange Digital Center is an initiative led by Group Orange. It is an initiative that makes a lot of initiatives for youth, organizing free training programs that goes through supporting entrepreneurs, startups accelerations, and even in the investment. All of this combines a lot of initiatives like Orange École du Code, Fab Lab Solidaire, Orange Fab, the corporate startup accelerator, and Orange Ventures Africa. All of this has been deployed in Tunisia, Senegal, and in Cameroon. 15 other Orange Digital Centers will be deployed soon. There will be Ethiopia in February, Jordani, Ivory Coast, Mali, Morocco, Egypt, Madagascar, Guinea-Conakry, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Burkina Faso, Botswana, Central Africa, and Democratic Republic of Congo, and Guinea-Bissau. All of these countries will have Orange Digital Centers deployed in them to promote entrepreneurship, technology, and help young entrepreneurs and young people from these countries access the know-how of the technologies of today. So, and this event about AI for all this week, as you have seen in this program, will be tackling this topic that you may have heard a lot about, AI, artificial intelligence. You have been introduced to the topic yesterday, and today we will dive into a very important aspect of AI work, and we are very, very glad to have very, let's say, prestigious experts with us today. Let me welcome, Sinan Kamal, who is the Data and AI Director at Orange Jordan. Welcome, Sinan. We are very glad to have you among us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Sinan. Let me welcome also Mahmoud Hassaan, who is the Senior Manager, Data Lake and Analytics at Orange Egypt. We're very glad to have you among us, Ahmed.
Thank you, yeah.
So Ahmed will explain later all these terms that you may not have the experience with, data lakes and all these concepts. All these new jobs also will be discussed in depth on the fourth day of the panels. And let me also welcome Soulaimane Lahrech, who is joining us from Morocco. He's the head of data technology and science at AKUMEN. Welcome, Soulaimane. Good morning.
Welcome, Marwan. Thanks.
So we're really glad to have you all. You can watch this live stream on YouTube and Facebook channels of Orange Plus qu'un opérateur. And we will be diving into this topic for this hour, data, the core piece of AI. We'll try to understand what's the hard thing about the hard things when we talk to AI. You have all heard about these great models and these great results and predictions that could come, but there are a lot of cornerstone topics we want to address to have this ground field experience from our top-notch experts who are present with us today. So let me start without further ado. Let's go into the topic. Mr. Sinan Kamal, you are the Data and AI Director at Orange Jordan. And we discussed before this panel, and you told me, Marwan, listen, there are a lot of hard things people don't talk about when it comes to AI. So let me just, before giving to you the floor, Sinan, say that we were supposed to have with us Mr. Yaser from Orange Jordan, Yaser Alsele, who is the data analytics manager at Orange Jordan, but so we are sorry for the loss of Yaser. He has a death of his relative. He couldn't be with us, but he wishes us a very lot of success for this panel. Sinan, back to you. So what are the hard things about hard things?
Thank you, Marwan. Yes, I do believe that today it's really trending terms related to AI, and everyone is talking about how much it's important, but it's had been a long journey till we reach here today, after tens of years where AI concepts started to appear in the world, and even back into World War II when they started to have this concept that we use the machine to mimic what a human can do. So I do believe today with the new technologies like big data, like the new super machines that we're having around us, and the new technologies that is allowing us to get the edge of having more practical use cases. So why it took the humanity that long? I do believe because there is definitely key points and the hard things need to be met so that we can really implement AI use cases. The first thing that I do believe that when you talk about AI, you really need to understand what you want exactly to do. It's not to go in the confusion of just having that cinematic or drama things of around AI. I want a human that's just interacting with me like we see in the cinema. I truly believe that you have to be specific when you want to really have a value from AI. So you need to describe your use case. You need to be specific. Like today we have clear examples between our hands, like Siri, like Google Assistant. Okay, what we want a digital interactive, I would say robot that is talking to me and can answer me for things that I expect, like weather, like turning on music and so on. So first thing, I think you need to make sure that you have this clear use case description. The second thing that you need to really capitalize on the data, and this is not an easy thing. And in telecom sector, we truly understand this. Today, to have artificial intelligence, there is the machine learning and the deep learning concepts. So you need to tell first what you want, as I said. Then you need to practice or to train the code that you are writing so that you can give the algorithm that you want, what you expect from it. And then it will start do the learning mechanism. And you don't move to the deep learning until you have that bulk of data. Why in telecom we truly understand that? Because in telecom we know how much the data growth is taking the right place and the right edge in the last years. Everyone today, even before COVID and now with more exponential way with COVID, we believe that data is really fueling the machine of AI or the use cases of AI. So the more you have data, simply the more intelligent you can train your model, and you can have deep learning and move to the deep learning where the algorithm itself will start relying on data more and more. Maybe later in this interesting panel, we talk about some real example, how really the machine or the algorithm can start autonomously learn from the data instead of waiting a human or a developer or a technician or an expert who will tell the machine what we expect from the artificial intelligence to do.
So this is really insightful. Two things to keep in mind, Sinan, you're telling us very insightful things here. Goal specific, you should know your goal. Why do you want to do that? I wanted to interact with you saying that it's an explorative work, knowing what I know, what I want to do from the first thing wouldn't be very intuitive at first. Exploration versus being goal driven. We will get back to these interesting questions because, but you mentioned that the second thing that you can do AI without data, and this is all basic evidence, but not everybody can understand that. So this is what we're having with us, Mr. Ahmed Hassaan from Orange, Egypt. He's senior manager of data lake and analytics. So maybe people don't understand what the data lakes are and why they are important for AI strategy and implementing AI strategy. Mr. Ahmed, enlighten us.
Hello, everybody. Well, thanks, Marwan. Actually, before talking about data lakes, I'd like to first define data. What's data and why it is important for AI? I need to actually quote Mr. Sinan. Thanks for telling us that artificial intelligence is like a trial to imitate human intelligence or the natural intelligence we all know about. So I like to throw an example here. If we are having a human baby with at maximum no intelligence, just born now, and you isolated him from all data sources he may learn from. I mean, like through a human baby in a forest, for example, and you will end up with a barbarian Tarzan, like the famous movies we know about. But what if we try to feed him some data, some inputs? I mean, he will start to learn. He will learn how to move, how to manipulate things, and so on. So data is crucial to whatever you are going to learn. Okay, this is on the human side. When we talk about the artificial side, we are talking here about computers and the digital world. We are talking about a different sort of data that mostly not all of people are aware of. When we talk about data, people usually think of the Excel sheets they have on their desktops and those records everywhere, maybe a spreadsheet you have thrown at your office. But actually, data now is becoming totally different. We have diverse amounts of data sources. Even YouTube, your video you are watching is full of data, starting from your IP address and the URL you type, and going through the actual facial impressions of people you are viewing inside your video, the captions, of course, and all the transcripts. All of these are data. All the transactions coming out from your wearable devices, machine to machines, and so on. These are all data. People at the telecom industry actually are aware of those different sources, and we are always eager and hungry to harvest them, collect them, and then comes the hardest part, which is dealing with them. Those massive amounts of data are very hard to collect at the first place. Then you have to read them and go through it and find out which is clean, which part of your data is clean, and which is not, what's usable and what's not. Here is where data lakes comes as a helping tool. Data lake actually is the right concept. I can't call it a tool, actually. It's like a concept rather than a tool. The most famous tools associated with data lakes is big data. Big data as a technology is the right tool you use to collect those massive amounts of data. Okay, and it makes your life a breeze when you are going to deal with a lot of records, millions of records, actually, and terabytes to extract the right amount of information. So in brief, and to answer your question, Marvin, a data lake is just a bunch of servers we connect together, and we collect data from all sources we can find, put them side by side, correlate, clean, and start do the magnificent work of artificial intelligence on them. And I'm sure that we will talk later about how we do this.
Yes, we will dive into the details of this. And as you said, this is about being relentlessly resourceful as you may collect data from all the sources and make them work for you, because that's the, let's say, the hard part before the magic part. You can do magic if you don't have the right tools for that. Exactly. So this is really great. And this will help us dive more into this topic that we've chosen today, data, the core piece of AI. Let me go to you, Soulaimane, and the question is clearly, we said we talking about the importance of knowing what you're looking for, about that data is very important. Ahmed spoke about very important prerequisites to manipulate your data, and talk about data lakes in a way that it helps data scientists or AI teams be concentrated about high quality data. We will get back to that. But Soulaimane, I think that when we speak about data, there are a lot of, Ahmed said, there are a lot of sources, and maybe you have a lot to say in that topic when we talk about alternative data.
Yeah, exactly, Marwan. Thank you so much. So basically, let me just focus a little bit on what Sinan and Ahmed just said. Actually, a data lake is more than a technology, it's a methodology. Today, to be successful in any kind of big data or AI project, there is no that much technological issue. The most challenging things are deeply related to organization and the way you're going to structure your data. Basically, a data lake is just a huge bunch of servers, just like Ahmed said, but able to store internal and external data, whether it is structured or semi-structured or unstructured. So basically, in Africa, we have this kind of issue where companies are not completely ready to ingest a lot of data. When it comes to structured data, I mean, the data they use for their core businesses, the data is almost all the time ready. But when you wanna put some additional intelligence into this data by augmenting them, utilizing other sources, you will find that companies have some difficulties to retrieve this additional data. For example, there are not a lot of companies who have analytical logs of what is being done on their digital application or website. You will struggle finding data or open data around your country or the sector your company is working on. So it comes to alternative data when you have this specific issue, which is really related to the African context. So basically, what you need to know is that everybody by living is generating a bunch of data. I mean, when you're driving on the street, when you're calling on cell phone, when you are discussing with somebody, you are generating a lot of data. And this data is being used by some big players to do a lot of things. And let me just give you some example. Currently, we are working with the Central Bank of Morocco, trying to implement new approaches to compute the Moroccan KPIs in order to find a solution to this specific pandemic situation that we are currently living. And just working on Google Trends API, namely being able to know what are the keywords that are being searched on Google, for example, is a kind of alternative data that can make us compute utilizing advanced algorithms, namely deep learning, forecasting algorithms, and NLP. The confidence levels of the population. For example, when it tends to unemployment, you can go on several job posting platforms and try to scrap all the job offers that they are and to monitor the way they are evolving in order to have additional insights. And it's not just for this kind of organization that are public organization. You can do exactly the same with other companies. For example, if you are a company like Volkswagen, let's say, and you need to know where your people, your consumers are looking for which kind of vehicles, so you can offload your stocks. You can use this kind of similar additional data by going on the social network, on the websites of your competitors, on Google Trends API, on Twitter, etc., to try to take the most advantage for of this data that is accessible. We call it third-party data, namely data that is not your own and it's not the data of one of your partners. And this is just a white example for agriculture, utilizing satellite imagery in order to compute the indexes of the quality of your agriculture is something that is very interesting and growing in Africa. So this data is alternative because it's not yours and it's not one of your partners.
This is all very insightful, Soulaimane. As you may have understood from what Soulaimane has said, you need to be creative. As Ahmed and Sinan said, it's about being resourceful and it's about collecting data. Also, this means that the use case can completely change if you find a new data source that you can rely on. But this is very important, as we said. Let me get back to you, Sinan. Being creative is very important when it comes to data. But creativity sometimes doesn't save us. There needs to be a lot of discipline, a lot of processes to be implemented to make sure that the work that one should be doing can deliver great results. What are the best practices on this, Sinan?
True. Thank you, Marwan. I think I would highlight two aspects for that. The first one, as my colleague said, today it's a journey. Ahmed said a very interesting example for the baby or Tarzan kid, that it's for to mimic a human. You need to think, okay, how things going on there. Actually, what happens that first we start with capturing the data. This is what human does even when we were babies. So via senses, via our parents, we started to capture this data, and then we try to connect the data to each other. So when I see the cat the first time and I hear my mom saying, this is a cat, So, okay, I will try it, and then I will start building a set of data or set of knowledge that I'm putting in my head. And then I will start checking my own ability to really verify, is this a cat or is this a dog? So maybe I will first point at a dog and they say, this is a cat. So my mom will tell me, no, it's a cat. So this correction is making me even better. So the first aspect that this journey, when you go to practicality for any AI use cases, you want to do in a way the same for the machine. You want to put a lot of data, like my colleagues Ahmed and Sinan said, so the data sources are important. And here, as much as you have data, you will have the edge to build your own base. And then you need to build your own practices of how you, want to explore data, how you will take the advantage of this lots of data, and how you can really have the proper quality of the results. And here comes the example where machine learning and deep learning start to work. So in the machine learning as example, okay, it's like the mom telling the baby, okay, this is a cat, this is not a dog. So you are giving the machine more aspects and more data parameters that is making the machine really identify the cat from the dog. And then we move to deep learning when we ask the machine, okay, do it by your own. Then you each time they will try and they will answer. So today, as example, in Siri and Google Assistant, they take the feedback. Was I answering your real question or I went wrong? So then it will be feeded to the same algorithm and then optimize things. So this is one of the practical examples where we can see it's not an easy journey, but the result is really interesting. And the more data we have, the more even advanced features we have. But here we need to understand that also the machine has some capacities that a human is not easy to have it. And the super fast processing of data is not something easy that you can have in the human side. So once you have this AI use case implemented, you will take the luxury of that. The machine is much accurate, less manual mistakes, and more fast, near real-time implementation of what you want. So this is really the fascinating thing about AI. The other aspect I want to highlight here actually is when you talk about practicality, it's not that easy to, once you are exposed to all of this data domain, you need really to consider the protection and the privacy of those use cases. So the eagerness or the hunger of data, like Soulaimane and Ahmed said, of course it's there, but in the same time, once you are implementing, you need to make sure that you are not violating the rights of the humans, and you are making sure that you are under the boundaries of not in legal only, legal and ethical aspects that you need to respect, so that the machine may not violate one of our human rights that we are. So it's not easy, again, as you said at the beginning of the panel, but I think the results always will be fascinating and exponential by time.
This is very insightful. You said a lot of things that we will dive into in the next questions. Sinan, you talked about minimizing the number of human errors, and that opens a very wide topic about automation for AI. And this is something that people may overlook, especially when we start to believe so much that it's more an art than a science, and it's more about creativity than engineering a process and repeating it. So this takes me to Ahmed. You were very specific to defining data, to defining the architectures that could help AI teams and data scientists and analytics people drive value. So Ahmed, there's a lot of cultural aspects towards that, and a lot of architecture aspects to facilitate that. So Ahmed, you have a lot of inputs on these two topics. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Marvin. I'd like to start with the architecture aspect, actually, and how it enforces the way we are thinking of data right now. So I'd like to talk about a concept about 10 years ago, the famous concept of garbage in, garbage out when you talk about software programs. And that was actually inherited from the way we store data. We use back then classical BI systems with that are rigid and they stick to a certain schema. You should know the way data will be pushed to your systems before ahead data comes. But since the introduction of actually unstructured data tools like big data, like I was saying before, those tools actually get us the ledger of not throwing data away. Each and every bit of data you find around you is important. It's not any more garbage. You don't know when you can make use of it. So of course, we all think about what if those are really unuseful data now because we have missing parts, for example. I meet someone on the street and I don't know his name, but he told me a very nice idea, for instance. So this is a missing part of my data. What was the guy's name? Can I extrapolate this name? Can I interpolate this name? We use fantastic statistical algorithms right now, starting from just linear interpolation and then going to the extent of using neural networks and some advanced techniques like maybe KNN and so on to extrapolate those missing parts of the data before just throwing it away. Because you never know which part of your data will influence the way you think in future and your algorithms think in future. That was regarding the architectural part. Regarding the social and cultural part, actually, the AI industry is currently influencing all of us and changing the way we think and live and deal together. It has a major impact on the way you purchase goods, for instance. In the old days, you just go to the supermarket, buy something and get out, and nobody knows actually what you have bought, except for you, of course. Now, each step you do everywhere is connected to a device, and it's generating a log record that another application or a software can make use of. Usually, artificial intelligence collects data about user behavior, customer journey, for instance, in the telecom industry is very important for us to know all the touch points customers are dealing with us, what they are doing, and what types of promotions and offers and goods they are interested in. And that enables us as a business owner or as an entrepreneur to suggest the right product at the right time for your customer, getting him maximum benefit and getting you maximum revenue, of course. This is very interesting for business right now. That was the good part, but the bad part of AI and its impact on culture is a bit different, actually. People are still afraid of robots invading the world, and this is, of course, not true. Maybe the worst part is the ethical impact of artificial intelligence in our life. We can now be facing some AI techniques that are being implemented in justice courts, and that may have very bad impact actually on judging people because we all have our personal differences that cannot be reflected onto data and records in the systems. Moreover, I can throw an example here actually from a famous Amazon algorithm that was developed, I think in 2014. They started implementing it to recruit people, and it was about filtering the CVs. It was found out later that this algorithm, this artificial intelligence model, was biased to males rather than females while it was hiring. I mean, it was selecting males for most of the technical jobs, and that's, of course, a gender bias that is not allowed in the industry. Of course, when they dig deeper, it was found that data they were feeding to the AI model was not accurate, and they were actually neglecting a lot of inputs that ended up with a biased AI. That's why still your data is important. How you deal with it is much more important.
This is a very good example, Ahmed, on how data can influence your AI work. The goal here responds to what Sinan said. They knew what they want to do. They want to filter candidates. They had data, but they didn't see that this data can imply all this bias, and that the results can cause for Amazon. Not just, let's say, not just that the use case didn't have good results, but also on an image and communication level, that was a very touchy topic. So this is very important to say that AI is a holistic topic that starts from the data and goes even to ethics and intentions. And this is all very passionate to discuss. We will get back to these points to bias and how to avoid bias from the start, or maybe not avoiding it, but de-risking it. Soulaimane, let me get back to you. We've talked about being creative. We're talking about alternative data. We're talking about creativity and practicality. You've given us very good examples of how we can engineer our way or hack in a very we need to be very careful about this word to hack the data sources in a way that we get the data that we want for our use cases. But you talked also about data privacy and the importance of data privacy in Africa. Within the regulations aren't moving that fast. Data privacy isn't a business or a topic for just lawyers. It's a topic that data scientists and people who work on data should understand very well. So what's your takes on that, Soulaimane?
Yeah, I'm gonna answer you, and in the same time, jumping back to what's have been just said. So basically, when we work on a data lake, we are not in the old framework of ETLs, namely extract, transform, then load. You want to be more like an LET process: load first, then extract what you need before you transform. So basically, when it comes to that, what does it mean in a privacy context? It means that you're gonna load everything, at least everything you may need someday. And after that, you're gonna extract what you need and transform. So you are taking data, which is not minimal. Basically, this is the big data paradigm. But in the other hand, you have the privacy paradigm, which asks you to take the minimum amounts of data, of personal data, to be able to achieve your goals. So there is a huge rule, which is called the proportionality of the collect and the transformation to the use case. Basically, what the regulation says is that you cannot ingest or transform personal data unless you're providing something back, or you have some use case that are gonna utilize this data that has an additional value created. Plus, you need to specify it to the owner of the data when it's personal. So basically, this can look like an issue. You need to load first before you start working, but in the other hand, you cannot. You need to minimize the collection of PII data. So what's the solution to be able to outcome this issue? Basically, you can today work with modern architectures, modern data lake architectures, utilizing cloud technologies without harming the owner of the data and without being afraid of any kind of privacy issue, because the data scientist doesn't need to know that Soulaimane, to take the same example, has bought this kind of good from this grocery store in order to try to do some resell or some retargeting use case. You just need to know that X, Y, 4, 5, 6, Y, Z is buying this kind of good from this grocery. Namely, you can hash all the personal data. The data scientist doesn't need to know who is doing it. He just needs to know that this specific person that I don't know is able to have done that. So basically, one of the main architectures that we can use in Africa in order to be able to do data science and AI at scale is the hybrid data lake. Why hybrid? You need an on-premise part, namely servers that you own that are on your data center, where we can do this pseudo-anonymization, these hashing algorithms, these asymmetric hashing algorithms that cannot be broken, before sending the data onto the cloud, where you can work with all the scalability of the cloud in order to process the data. Once you have all your analyticals done, you can come back with the results on your on-premise platform and do the depth pseudonymization. So in this specific way, you are able to collect a lot of data, but it's not personal data anymore once you have transformed it into a hash, once you have do the pseudonymization process. So the the contradiction that we started with, where I was stating that you need to load first before extracting and transforming in order to be on the big data paradigm. And the other aspect, which is you need to minimize the collection of personal data, is solved by this kind of architecture, because the pseudo-anonymization process that you do on your servers is making you working on non-personal data, even if it's at the end of the day related to somebody. So once you do all the AI processes and data science great job with the scalability of the cloud services, you can come back on your infrastructure, the one you own, and being able to de-pseudonymize in order to do your business activation of the use case.
This is very insightful, Soulaimane. It's clear that it comes from ground field experiences, and this is what's amazing about our panel today, is that we are digging deep into these topics, that we are not talking about them superficially, but we are really getting into the details and the final recommendations from the experts present with us. Back at you, Sinan, you've talked about human error and automation and the power of automation when it comes to AI. And I think that your input on that field is very, very important.
Thank you, Marwan. Yes, I do believe that key point in artificial intelligence that allow humans to capitalize on this new technologies is to understand the difference between what we can and what we cannot do, and what the machine can do and what they cannot do. And I do believe that it's not only about AI. Automation in general is based on the fact that the machine can do things in a way that is more accurate and more fast than what we do. And a simple example, when you put as example a process robotic automation, what you are telling the robot to do in this example, that just do the very same manual steps that I'm doing on a specific system, and you give them all the inputs of data that they need, and they will be working 24/7. They will do it exactly accurately. So if you ask them to push the mouse button on a specific field, they will never miss it. While by practice, we know as people, and we all worked in telecom, I believe operators and technology companies, we know how much it's part of the reality that humans do mistakes. Even if you are at 10, 15, 20 years experience, sometimes you will be sleepy, sometimes you will, someone will talk to you, and so on. So this is really the beauty of difference between what machine can do and what human can do. And I totally agree with Ahmed. It's not about the fantasy that, you know, they're having more capacity in some areas, they will control the world. No, it's not the same. Of course, it's not. Our brain is definitely something that had been created in a very, I don't know, miracle way that really makes it think and explore and so on. And this is what humanity is all about. But the machine is coming to complement, to collaborate what we are doing, the efforts there. And here I want to insist on what Soulaimane said. Today, a very interesting block, we call it the unknown unknown in data, which is really empowering the AI, is what Soulaimane said. Today, you need to know what you want in terms of use case, but you will never know where data will guide you once you really explore it with the heavy, powerful machines. So one, I won't call it a mistake, but I would call it a limitation, that today human, when they explore data, they in a way will use their experience how they are exploring the data. While the machine, in the methodology that Soulaimane elaborated, when we load everything, the machine sometimes will explore for you some patterns of data via mathematical equations and mathematical methodologies that will give you some results that you may miss. So it's not a mistake of a pure definition of mistake, but you may miss it in terms of you, because of you are biased with your own experience analyzing the data. Sometimes you will miss some aspects. So here comes the fact that the data will not neglect any kind of data because of the stereotype or the way you are used to analyze data or the way you are looking to data. That's why data is really crucial and important, and is even giving new edge when we go with the what Soulaimane said, that we load everything and then we allow ourselves and the machines to explore this data. The last thing that I want to comment on regarding the fact that we also in Orange Jordan decided, based on what Soulaimane said, that we go with a hybrid methodology, because it's really key that the flexibility of the technology that you are using is really allowing you to move with the fact that you respect the privacy of people, and in the same time use the luxury of massive storage and massive machines where you can push the data over there without the challenges of local complexities, and making sure that you're putting the proper encryption, hashing, and different aspects of securing the data. So in a nutshell, I do believe truly that definitely AI has a very good advantage in terms of minimizing the human mistakes if we respect all the ethical and privacy issues. And this, again, as Ahmed said, by time exponentially will be really changing our lives. A lot of things that was consuming time to fix it and to correct a lot of human mistakes, it's there. Things will be moving toward more focus. People will be relying on the machines on a lot of daily aspects that we're doing today, even inside our daily job tasks, and we will be focusing on enhancing it and optimizing it. Thank you.
This is really insightful, and it's also clear, Sinan, that you have been into a lot of debates of what the machine can do and what the machine can't. And this is clearly one of the key activities data people and AI people will spend a lot of their time doing when they are evangelizing or talking or explaining what is their job and what's the mission and what's the goal behind data exploration. So let me get back at you, Ahmed. A lot have been said about hybrid architectures, about the use of data lakes. They've been talking about Soulaimane and Sinan about loading and then exploring. So maybe this is something you should comment as you started talking about data lakes.
Sure. Thanks, Marvin. Actually, I'd like to bring the attention of people to something very interesting about data when it comes to AI. The more you learn, the more you are able to execute and to predict. The more you learn here when it comes to artificial intelligence is the more data you collect. So having a lot of data means having a lot of machines that you need to administrate, tailor, and take care of. And of course, all of this comes at price. I mean, you have to spend more money to build your own infrastructure. This is usually not applicable for everyone. So people now are tending to use cloud as a technology to store their data. You don't have to keep your data on-prem. I mean, you don't have to collect your servers by your own and connect them and know all the internal details about how to store data on data lakes or big data. But here, this brings us to another dilemma, which is data privacy. In Europe, you have a law like GDPR that enforces everybody to keep data anonymously about a customer and to take his permission to keep their data or to delete it on demand. But in Africa, as we don't have this unified law, and I'm sure that each and every country in Africa has its own internal legalizations that enforces people about how to store data, what to keep about persons and what to not, when to make it anonymous and when to reveal it on demand for court and justice, for instance. Such regularizations are actually prohibiting and limiting the way you store data, sometimes on-prem, and limiting you from going onto public cloud. This is another aspect when you are designing your infrastructure and designing your machines where you will be storing data. Another interesting techniques is using advancements in technology rather than expanding horizontally by spreading a lot of servers and connect them together, is expanding vertically by adding accelerated graphical processing units for deep learning and neural network analytics, for instance. This actually expedites the way you explore data and finding relations faster rather than using a lot of machines and relying on cloud that sometimes is not available due to laws and regulations, as I said. Last but not least, actually, I'd like to see us in Africa advancing in the cloud industry, because I'm sure that this will enable us to store more data, to have access to different data sources, to run more algorithms And on the technical part and technological knowledge part, I'm sure that Africa now is full of skilled people, actually. Most of us are, most of the countries, I mean, in Africa are now considering the learning curve of AI. It was very steep, actually. Now it's available for everybody. Online courses are there. People should be encouraged to learn more about AI and how to deal with data, since the technology advancement is already ahead and before us.
Thank you, Ahmed. These are very insightful inputs from you. Soulaimane, back at you. A lot have been discussed. You've been talking about hybrid technologies, hybrid architectures, how to make the most of data and AI thanks to these tools or these ways to see things differently. So, what can you add on that front?
Yeah, so basically, I would like to add two things. The first one, which is really related to public cloud. I mean, each and every country in Africa have its own regulation, but you can always find a way to use public cloud as long as you keep the most sensitive data on your own data center. So this is why we introduced the hybrid concept. But the other thing that I would like to say is, do we still have in Africa the luxury to not to go on AI? I mean, look at the situation of our continent. We really need to be implementing these new ways of analyzing complex issues and being able to solve a dramatic situation that the continent is currently living. And let me just give you one example that we've been developing for more than 1 year now at AIOX Labs, which is one of the companies I work on. Just to let you know that one pregnant woman out of 2 this year will give birth without being able to see a single doctor. This is the reality of our continent. So we can speak about privacy, etc., and we will do everything needed to respect the privacy of this woman. But in the other hand, is it normal that we have such a high mortality rates for pregnant women and for their newborns? This is something impossible. So we have been developing now a deep learning algorithm being able to analyze, thanks to sound imagery and echographies, the problems that this specific newborn will have before the doctor site is able to identify it, in order to solve these issues for pregnant women in Africa. And the accuracy that we have is better than the best doctors that we have here in Morocco. So basically the question is not being a substitution to a doctor, but being able to fight the medical desert that we have in Africa. Do we still have the luxury not to go on this kind of technologies? Do we still want to see a lot of newborns and pregnant women dying each and every day in our country? This is something that cannot enter my mind, as we have now the technology to face this dramatic situation. So yes, the privacy is important. And yes, again, being able to set up the encryption before starting the processing and being sure that we are on top of the international regulation standards is something very important. But in the other hand, in Africa, we need to understand that the situation cannot stay like this. And AI is a leverage that we need to, it should be the focus of the continent for the next 10 years in order to solve each and every issue that this continent is still facing. Because do not think that developed countries will generously build this kind of algorithm for yourself. You need to build it from Africa for Africa. And this is something very important. And we are doing it currently, so everybody can do it, thanks to the courses that have been stated by I think, Ahmed or Sinan a few minutes ago. So yes, regulation is important, privacy is important, but in Africa, the urgency to go on AI is even higher than in developed countries. That's probably what I wanted to add.
This is really insightful, Soulaimane. With all this, we have a lot of insights. Dear audiences, you have been able to listen to a lot of ground field experiences and a lot of top-notch experts' recommendations on how to deal with data when you approach an AI problem. Sinan, Ahmed, and Soulaimane, we will have a round of 1 minute each to let you conclude the key messages, the key recommendations for everybody watching us today. Sinan, 1 minute for you.
Thank you, Marwan. I would like to start by saying that in brief, I totally agree with Soulaimane. AI is key for the humanity. AI is key and opportunity for the third world generally to catch up with what's happening. Fear should not control it. Privacy should be respected. Technology is there. We need to know how to use it, for what to use it, but we should definitely be open to that. We should be eager to take the wave of change, because I do believe we need it. And not only in a business side, I do believe, like Soulaimane said, at all levels, government, humanity, NGOs, everyone should be onboarded to make sure it's happening in the right way, but it's there, it's coming, we should be prepared. Thank you. So Marwan, I think you are muted.
Ahmed, here you go. Yes, you're right.
Okay, thanks, Marwan. Actually, the last 1 minute, I'd like to highlight for all of our audiences to not be afraid of data. You can be a data scientist and you don't have to work for a big company to have access for data streams. Data is now public. You have public data sets everywhere. You have a set of very fantastic tools built online and open source tools you can compile at home. And don't be afraid to deal with data. Data is the future. AI is definitely the future. My colleagues already have highlighted this fact very much. I can't stress any more on this. So people, you are encouraged to try to play with data, try to apply algorithms. You don't have to be a mathematician. You don't have to be a scientist in a lab to know how to apply artificial intelligence techniques. Now it's available really for everybody. And if you don't know how, online courses are there. Go through it, study, learn to be a productive member of your social and environment in Africa.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you for this intake. Soulaimane, 1 minute.
Yeah, for my last minute, I would like to encourage the companies that are listening to us to go through this new way of solving complex issues. And I would like to highlight two things. What we called privacy by design and what we called industrialization by design. You don't want to wait until you have done a lot of experimentation before asking you the right questions. And the right question is, how do I do my AI use cases while being compliant from the beginning? And how do I do my experimentation with the minimum industrialization gap, like the minimum time and manpower in order to transform a good result that I found through my through my experimentation into something that has a reality and that gives me back money back. Because if you don't go this way, you will think that AI is just a waste of money without tangible results. When you think at the beginning, how would I implement, once the use case is done, how will I transform it into tangible results before starting? This is the only solution to create a huge ROI starting from the beginning. So basically, ask yourself, once I have the results, and once the human will take the result, because the human is going to implement the results of my algorithms, what should I do?
Thank you so much, Soulaimane. Thank you, Mr. Sinan Kamal, Ahmed, Hassaan, Soulaimane, Lahrech. You've been of a very insightful input for all of us. Thanks a lot for being with us in the second day of Orange Africa. We thank all the audience for following us for this first panel. We will start the second panel in just a few. The second panel will be discussing another topic, which is of a very great importance. So we have talked a little bit about alternative data in this first panel. In the second panel, we'll talk about open data, rising source of power. What is open data? What are the sources of open data? We will hear stories of projects based on open data that delivered real value. And what the economic contribution of open data, the best practices to do to deal with it, and what could be the recommendations of the experts in that. We will be with Hatem Haddad, co-founder and CTO and head of R&D department at AIOX Tunisia, Jihad Hanneshi, who is the co-founder of Majesty Tunisia, and Mick Levy, who is Business Innovation Director at Orange Business Services. The panel will be in French, so I'll be switching the language. See you in a few. We'll start at 11. Thank you, everybody, for watching us, and thank you, all the experts. Thank you, Soulaimane. Thank you, Sinan. Thank you, Ahmed.
Thank you for organizing. Thanks.
Hello, AKUMEN.
Hello.
So we're broadcasting live. So let us just wait 2 minutes and we'll start the panel. Thank you.
Bonjour, Jihad.
Bonjour,
Ça va?
comment allez-vous?
Ça va bien, ça va bien.
Alhamdulillah.
On s'adapte.
Ça va, ça va. Ah non, on ne s'est pas croisé, hein. J'ai bien croisé
Ahmed, oui.
C'est ça.
Oui.
Mais pas vous.
Non. C'est lui qui fait plutôt les sorties. Moi, je suis plutôt bureau.
Ok.
Back office.
Ouais.
Bonjour, Mick.
Bonjour à vous deux. Bonjour à vous.
Bonjour.
Trois, même ravi d'échanger avec vous aujourd'hui. Ça va bien?
Enchanté, Mick. Same here.
J'ai bien reçu ton email, Mick.
Cool, super. Bah, écoute, on verra ce que ça donne. Je ne sais pas si on n'est pas encore en broadcast. J'ai l'impression que oui.
Je sais pas.
C'est bien, au moins le public peut suivre aussi les coulisses. Dans ces événements total digital, c'est que tu peux aussi suivre les coulisses de ce qui se dit entre les confs.
Et puis le thème, c'est l'open data, hein, donc soyons open.
Allô?
Oui, bonjour.
Allô? Oui, bonjour, c'est Leïla. Ça va?
Oui.
Bonjour, Leïla.
Pardon?
On va commencer.
Oui, on commence, mais si vous pouvez rajouter le nom de l'entreprise.
Ouais,
Juste
donc Hatem,
voilà.
name, c'est à droite.
C'est à droite, il y a la liste des participants. Vous pouvez cliquer sur plus et rajouter le nom de votre organisation. Comme ça, on aidera les gens à vous reconnaître. En fait. C'est bon? Vous avez réussi à trouver l'option ou pas?
Yes, pour moi c'est fait.
Ouais, ça fait pour
Ok, super.
Donc, on attend que Hatem nous ajoute AKUMEN à droite et c'est fait. Et bienvenue à tous et à toutes et à tous dans ce deuxième panel aujourd'hui, Open Data, The Rising Source of Power. Donc, on est très heureux d'avoir un panel d'experts de renommée pour nous parler de leurs expériences, de leur perspective, hein, de voir l'utilité de l'open data, comment la mettre en pratique et quels seront leurs conseils pour vous. Donc, on va procéder à la présentation de nos chers panélistes avec nous aujourd'hui. Donc, Jihad Hanneshi qui est co-founder de Majesty, Hatem Haddad qui est co-founder aussi de AIOX, et Mick Levy qui est directeur innovation chez Business and Decision. Donc, on va commencer notre panel, on va discuter en long et en large ce sujet. On aura 1 heure pour tout dire autour de l'Open Innovation. Je vais commencer avec vous, Mick, pour un peu situer ce contexte d'Open Data et pourquoi on en parle, pourquoi c'est si important d'en parler aujourd'hui.
Oui, merci. Alors effectivement, pour me présenter en 2 mots, donc je suis directeur de l'innovation business pour le groupe Business et Décision. Business et Décision, on est une entité au sein d'Orange Business Service spécialisée dans la valorisation des données par l'IA notamment et par tous les moyens. Ça va faire bientôt 30 ans qu'on travaille à valoriser ce patrimoine de données des entreprises. Et bientôt 30 ans qu'on observe aussi un mouvement effectivement global qui est en train d'avancer autour de l'open data. C'est véritablement un mouvement mondial. Donc tous les pays, ou en tout cas énormément de pays dans le monde, travaillent à ouvrir leurs données. C'est bien souvent lancé par les services publics plutôt, parfois porté même à très très haut niveau dans les États. On pourra parler de ce qui se passe en France en particulier. Et puis, dans leur sillage, on voit aussi que des entreprises, parfois, ouvrent leurs données. Et ce mouvement mondial participe vraiment à une réflexion autour de la transparence de la vie politique, la transparence de la République, la transparence du fonctionnement, finalement, des collectivités et des États, en répondant même parfois à des lois. En France, il y a une loi donc, sur tous ces sujets-là qui vient totalement mettre en avant, voire obliger à ouvrir des données publiques. Donc, rappelons justement que l'open data, c'est bien de ça dont on parle, c'est de cette ouverture, de cette mise à disposition de jeux de données au grand public via Internet. Et on pourra en parler après, il y a une diversité très très large de sources de données, de niveau de qualité, de niveau de détail aussi. Mais globalement, c'est de ça dont il est question là ce matin.
Tout à fait, Mick. Donc, je passerai à Hatem qui donc travaille et qui valorise beaucoup ce sujet d'open data puisque c'est une activité de cœur dans l'activité de iCompass. Comment vous abordez la question, Hatem, chez vous, iCompass?
Merci, bonjour tout le monde. Donc, Hatem Haddad, je suis cofondateur et CTO de iCompass. iCompass est une start-up tunisienne, 100% tunisienne, c'est-à-dire les fonds, les experts sont tunisiens. On est en Tunisie et on travaille sur des problématiques qui sont le traitement automatique de la langue, plus précisément les dialectes arabes et les dialectes africains. Et à iCompass, on est confronté à cette problématique de open data puisqu'on travaille sur des réseaux de neurones, de deep learning, ce qui demande beaucoup de données. Et on est toujours à la recherche de ces données-là. Et l'open data, c'est une problématique qui nous intéresse beaucoup. Et je vais parler de notre expérience avec l'open data à iCompass.
Très bien, Hatem. Je passerai à Jihad, qui représente aujourd'hui Magesta. Bienvenue, Jihad, parmi nous.
Merci Marwan. Alors, mon nom c'est Hatem Haddad, je suis cofondateur de Magesta. Magesta, c'est une start-up tunisienne spécialisée en sciences des données, en data science. On est éditeur de notre propre plateforme de data analytics et on utilise cette technologie-là pour développer des solutions thématiques pour divers secteurs. Je cite le e-government, le secteur financier, le secteur de la santé, pour lequel on a été primé dernièrement par résultat pour l'une de nos solutions. Et en fait, on est confronté à l'open data de 2 manières. La première, c'est lorsqu'on est en mode exploration d'une nouvelle solution thématique, avant d'aller vers un client ou vers un partenaire potentiel, on aimerait quand même jauger un peu la pertinence de notre proposition et donc on recherche des sources de données ouvertes pour explorer une idée, mais aussi dans le cadre de projets concrets avec nos clients. Il s'avère très souvent que les données captives que l'entreprise a devraient ou pourraient être enrichies avec d'autres données qui sont externes et pourquoi pas de sources open data. Donc voilà, c'est de cette perspective-là que je vais aujourd'hui élaborer.
Très, très bien. Donc, le décor est planté. On va commencer à explorer ce sujet. On va commencer à poser les questions pour comprendre et décortiquer ce sujet d'open data. Je vais commencer avec vous, monsieur Mick Lévy. Vous êtes directeur innovation chez Business and Decision. Et vous voyez, comme vous avez dit, que l'open data pourrait prendre une perspective beaucoup plus large, parfois, que juste de résoudre des problématiques business et que ça pourrait être vu dans une vision beaucoup plus inclusive et beaucoup plus large. Qu'est-ce que vous pourrez en dire?
Oui, tout à fait. Alors, on peut déjà voir ce qui se passe. Et comme je le disais, c'est un mouvement assez général et qui est en plus en train de s'accélérer. Donc, il y a un observatoire européen sur la partie open data. Il faudrait voir si la même chose existe côté africain ou sur les autres continents. Ça serait hyper intéressant. En tout cas, en Europe, l'initiative est même pilotée. Et donc, je vous renvoie vers European Data Portal.eu pour avoir des infos. Et il montre très clairement qu'il y a une très, très forte accélération. Rien qu'en 2020, le marché de l'open data a augmenté de près de 40%. Donc, c'est assez impressionnant parce que c'est déjà un chantier qui est lancé de longue date, qui accélère encore. Et en 2020, on voit qu'on est encore sur une très grosse phase d'accélération. Et ce qui est vraiment intéressant aussi de voir dans les grands chiffres à retenir, c'est que c'est une source d'économie pour les gouvernements. En ouvrant les données, certes, il y a quelques chantiers technologiques, techniques à accomplir pour permettre d'ouvrir les données, les mettre à disposition, mais ensuite, ça permet de réaliser des économies qui sont assez importantes. À l'échelle de l'Europe, sur les 28 pays européens, l'Observatoire estime que les pays ont en tout gagné 1,7 milliard d'euros sur 2020. Évidemment, le coût d'ouverture est beaucoup plus faible que ces 1,7 milliard d'euros qui ont été gagnés. Donc, comment ça c'est possible? Par un terme que tu as cité, on se tutoie, on a dit. Hein. On a dit tu,
Oui,
on a
oui,
dit
oui.
vous.
Moi,
Et moi, je parle plus en tout cas. On est entre nous. Donc, par un terme que tu as cité aussi tout à l'heure, qui est celui de l'open innovation. Et effectivement, l'open data est un des grands volets de l'open innovation et l'open innovation gouvernementale aussi. C'est-à-dire en mettant à disposition des données de tous les citoyens, derrière, il y a des startups, il y a des entreprises, il y a des organisations qui vont pouvoir s'en saisir et créer de nouvelles applications, de nouveaux dispositifs qui sont basés sur ces données ouvertes. On le voit par exemple dans les secteurs des transports où il y a énormément d'applications qui ont pu se développer pour les transports, pour optimiser les transports, pour les transports publics aussi. Ces données, elles sont maintenant disponibles aussi dans les Google Maps et autres, ce qui permet de savoir dans combien de temps arrive notre bus, notre tram ou notre métro en direct et de donner lieu à des nouveaux business aussi. On a travaillé aussi, on a eu des projets pour des collectivités chez Business et Décision pour venir optimiser en France les points de collecte de déchets volontaires. Donc, il y a des endroits où on peut aller déposer nos déchets, notamment des déchets recyclables, un petit peu comme des déchetteries, mais optimisées où le tri des déchets est déjà fait directement à la source, on pourrait dire. Et les collectivités, les villes notamment, cherchent à repérer quels sont les meilleurs endroits pour positionner ces points de déchets. Et donc ça, c'est possible grâce à l'open data. On va exploiter tout un tas d'autres données de la ville qui ont été ouvertes pour pouvoir améliorer ce service-là pour la collectivité elle-même. Donc c'est là qu'il va y avoir des gains hyper intéressants et tout un tas de nouveaux services à développer pour les citoyens, pour les citoyens aussi du coup.
Très, très bien. Mais quand on va revenir sur les use cases et les cas d'usage que vous avez développés et pu explorer et l'input de l'open data, comment ça pourrait, donc certains cas, changer vraiment la donne et vraiment nous faire atteindre des résultats auxquels on ne s'attendait pas. Hatem de AIOX, vous avez dit que vous visez le marché africain, le marché du Nord-Afrique, du Moyen-Orient. Et dans ces pays-là, forcément, la maturité de ces sujets d'open data n'est pas au niveau des attentes qu'on peut avoir quand on travaille évidemment dans ce domaine d'open data avec l'intensité que vous mettez. Et c'est pour cela que je pense que AIOX déjà intègre dans sa façon de faire et dans sa stratégie cette logique d'être open data et de promouvoir l'open data. Comment vous y prenez, Hatem, là-dessus?
Merci. Donc, Mick tout à l'heure a parlé de open innovation, open data au niveau des gouvernements. Il n'y a pas, effectivement, il n'y a pas un observatoire en Afrique. Et en Tunisie, dernièrement, il y a eu une loi, il y a à peine un mois, la philosophie de cette loi qui dit que chaque administration tunisienne doit faire un open data, une plateforme pour mettre à disposition ces data. C'est bien sur le papier, oui. Je ne suis pas un expert en loi, mais je trouve que c'est une bonne initiative. Mais il y a eu plein d'initiatives avant. Au ministère de l'Industrie, il y a eu une plateforme, etc. Mais il va falloir beaucoup de temps pour mettre en place cette stratégie de open data au niveau du gouvernement. Nous, à AKUMEN, on a commencé à réfléchir sur cette problématique dès le départ. Et on a mis un chef data officer qui s'occupe de la collecte des data. Nous, on travaille principalement sur le texte et la voix. Sur le texte, pour les dialectes africains, c'est très rare de trouver des datas. Il n'y a pas au niveau des gouvernements il n'y a pas des grandes boîtes en Afrique qui permettent de mettre à disposition des datas. Nous, donc, ce qu'on fait à AKUMEN, notre stratégie, c'est aller vers le crowdsourcing et d'aller chercher nos datas sur le web. Bien sûr, derrière, il y a toute une stratégie en ce qui concerne la privacy de ces datas, en ce qui concerne la qualité de ces datas, le pré-traitement, etc., jusqu'à arriver à avoir les données que nous, on a besoin pour faire travailler nos modèles. En Tunisie, par exemple, on est confronté, quand on travaille sur la voix, on est confronté à trouver des sources de données de la voix. Donc, on a contacté pas mal de médias, de radio, mais en fin de compte, notre stratégie, c'est de dire, on va compter sur nous-mêmes, on va créer nos propres datas. Non seulement ça, mais on va mettre ces datas à la disposition du public, c'est-à-dire on va créer nos propres silos de open data et on va ouvrir ces datas au grand public. On a commencé cette stratégie depuis 2 ans et on trouve que cette stratégie, elle marche très bien, que ce soit au niveau local en Tunisie, parce qu'on commence à avoir des collaborations avec d'autres startups, avec d'autres institutions. Et le deal, c'est de dire qui a du data, moi j'offre autre chose, expertise, infrastructure. Et comme ça, on commence à faire un échange dans l'écosystème avec des data. Ça marche aussi en Afrique. Là, on a des partenaires au Nigeria, au Kenya, au Mali, et de dire, nous, on met à votre disposition notre expertise, vous mettez à notre disposition vos data, et comme ça, c'est un win-win échange. Et finalement, ce qu'on a fait, c'est ouvrir une partie de nos data pour des challenges, pour des compétitions niveau africain. C'est-à-dire, on a un dataset assez volumineux comme dataset tunisien. On a pris une partie, on a mis ça en compétition, dans une compétition avec le Zendi Institution, et on a créé une compétition pour les jeunes, pour les chercheurs. Et comme ça, on participe dans l'écosystème à faire avancer les travaux dans le domaine de l'intelligence artificielle qui demandent des data. Nous, on met à disposition des gens nos propres data. Et je pense que cette philosophie de pousser l'écosystème à ouvrir les bases de données, à ouvrir leurs data, ça permet à créer en Afrique, en tout cas, des plateformes d'open data. Et j'ai suivi tout à l'heure le panel, là où quelqu'un a dit en Afrique, c'est les Africains qui doivent tout faire. Et en effet, on trouve qu'en Afrique, c'est les Africains qui doivent tout faire. On ne peut pas vraiment attendre les gouvernements à faire ces stratégies. Ça va être très long, ça va prendre beaucoup de temps, mais nous, comme startup, on est dans un process où tout va très, très vite.
Alors, c'est une super initiative, si je peux me permettre, qui participe de ce que j'appelle le cercle vertueux de la data. C'est-à-dire, tu crées des données, à partir de ces données, tu vas pouvoir créer de nouveaux services. Ces nouveaux services vont eux-mêmes t'amener de nouvelles données et du coup, tu fais un cercle vertueux avec ça. Et Hatem, ce que tu proposes là permet d'instancier ce raisonnement. C'est une top initiative. J'espère que tu seras suivi.
Et je pense que ça a été déjà commencé, comme
Ouais.
l'a dit Hatem, dans les initiatives qu'ils font à iCompass, avec les challenges qu'ils organisent, avec l'ouverture des datasets qu'ils arrivent à collecter, mais aussi en invitant une communauté large et en mobilisant une communauté autour de ces problématiques et autour de cette logique de collecte et d'organisation d'open data. Jihad, je reviens vers vous par rapport au use case, en fait, au use case que vous avez pu travailler, vous avez pu explorer à Majestai sur les apprentissages que ça a eu dans votre expérience.
Oui, très bien. Et puis, je vais par là même abonder dans un sens qui est un peu contraire à Mick et à Hatem en termes de, disons, d'abondance et de valeur de tout ce qui est open data. Donc, nous, entre autres, on a travaillé sur les données sur les entreprises en Tunisie, avec l'idée, enfin, il n'y avait pas d'a priori vraiment, mais on a essayé de comprendre une sorte de dynamique de création d'entreprises à l'échelle de la Tunisie. Donc, c'était ça le point de départ. Et après, on s'est dit, on va voir ce que ça donne en termes de cas d'usage possibles à partir de ça. Et le point de départ, c'était tout ce qui est disponible en open data sur les entreprises tunisiennes. Alors, il n'y en a pas beaucoup, hein, c'est même pas 1 million d'entreprises. Et pourtant, il y a une véritable scarcity sur les données sur les entreprises en Tunisie. On a quand même réussi à collecter pas mal de données. On a quand même réussi à dégager des tendances de création d'entreprises, des tendances en termes de disparité régionale lorsqu'il s'agit d'endroits où ces entreprises sont créées. On a même quantifié ça à travers nos algorithmes et on a aussi réussi à regarder un peu l'implication ou la diversité en termes de gestion de nos entreprises. Alors la plupart, c'est des cas de cogérance ou de gérance de petites SAR, mais le constat vraiment, on a réussi à avoir un noyau qui est intéressant, mais qui a absolument besoin de données qui ne sont pas ouvertes pour qu'on puisse explorer encore plus de cas d'usage intéressants pour les banques, pour les assurances, pour l'État, pour l'administration fiscale, pour la CNSS et ce genre d'entreprises. Alors, le constat est le suivant. Le plus intéressant dans l'open data, c'est ce qui n'est pas mis en open. Donc, il y a une sorte de décision qui est ou pas consciente, qui est ou pas active, de dire voilà ce qu'on va ouvrir, voilà ce qu'on ne va pas ouvrir. La deuxième chose, c'est que les données qui sont ouvertes sont essentiellement, en tout cas pour beaucoup d'entre elles, agrégées. Et vous le savez, hein, plus on a des données agrégées, plus on perd en termes de potentialité d'extraction de connaissances, d'apprentissage et donc de cas d'usage intéressants à la sortie. Et puis, une dernière chose qui est aussi une sorte de, pas un frein, mais quand même, c'est quelque chose qui limite un peu le potentiel d'utiliser les open data sources comme un véritable vivier de données pour construire des services dans la durée, c'est qu'il n'y a pas de garantie par rapport à la mise à jour de ces données. Alors, je ne parle pas de tout ce qui est qualité de données, parce que ça a été évoqué et je pense qu'on y reviendra, mais c'est vrai que ça donne des possibilités, mais lorsque on veut vraiment construire un produit, un service à partir de cette source-là, on se trouve quand même dans une sorte d'obligation de, effectivement, comme l'a fait Hatem, construire en captif son propre dataset à partir, peut-être en utilisant leveraging ces données ouvertes, mais en investissant beaucoup aussi pour le nettoyer, pour le rendre AI ready et puis pour construire son service et ses use cases dessus.
C'est clair, Jihad, qu'il y a quand même, et c'est quelque chose qu'on peut tous être d'accord là-dessus, hein, qu'aujourd'hui, il y a des inquiétudes sur ce qui pourrait être une évolution saine et positive d'un écosystème open data en Afrique. Et tu as parlé de l'exemple spécifique de la Tunisie, où Hatem a mentionné cette nouvelle loi qui n'est pas aujourd'hui en train d'être mise en exergue avec l'exigence ou bien qui répondrait aux attentes des data scientists de la communauté data par rapport à ceci. On va revenir à ces sujets, aux recommandations qui vont ressortir pour construire ces écosystèmes, parce que c'est ce qu'on est en train de discuter aujourd'hui. L'open data, c'est des choses, le nom, elle porte très bien son nom. Quand on dit open, c'est aussi une logique de partenariat, une logique de relation entre N acteurs pour évidemment construire cet écosystème. Et on va, avant d'aborder ces questions de recommandation, on va peut-être mieux se focaliser sur les avantages et comment on pourrait en tirer de la valeur et aussi avoir des histoires où l'open data a pu répondre à ses promesses et a pu aussi parfois surpasser les promesses. Et donc, il y a des use cases qui ont été faits. Mick, tu peux déjà nous éclairer sur quelques use cases que vous avez vus qui font usage de l'open data pour évidemment revenir dans un deuxième temps sur comment s'y prendre.
Bah oui, la Djihad a ouvert magistralement le sujet, la boîte de Pandore, de dire ok, l'open data c'est bien, mais c'est aussi plein d'opportunités pour toutes les entreprises qui pourront s'appuyer sur ces nouvelles sources de données. Et c'est très juste. Pour les entreprises, pour les organisations de manière générale, c'est avant tout des opportunités de nouvelles sources de données qui sont disponibles pour en faire plein de cas d'usage. Ce qui va être hyper puissant avec l'open data, finalement, c'est de la capacité à contextualiser tous les constats qui sont faits dans l'entreprise. Si on n'utilise pas d'open data, en fait, on regarde les données d'une entreprise donnée comme on regarde son nombril, quoi. On ne regarde que le fonctionnement de l'entreprise et on n'arrive pas à la remettre dans son contexte global de marché. Or, avec les données de l'open data, on va avoir cette capacité-là. Par exemple, c'est un exemple d'ailleurs que je donnais dans la keynote que j'ai animée hier matin et qui doit être disponible encore en replay sur YouTube, donc je l'ai expliqué beaucoup plus en détail. On est parvenu à établir un algorithme prédictif du chiffre d'affaires qu'allaient réaliser les 1200 points de vente en France d'une grande enseigne de distribution. Et ça, c'était quelque chose qui était impossible sans les données open data. Et donc, comment on a fait? On a exploité toutes les données internes de l'entreprise, notamment les tickets de caisse, l'ensemble des achats et sur tout un historique. Mais cet ensemble des achats qu'on est venu contextualiser, remettre en perspective par rapport à des données externes disponibles en open data, en l'occurrence, pour celles qui étaient importantes pour eux, la météo. En l'occurrence, des données socio-économiques et socio-démographiques, donc des données qui sont fournies par l'Institut national des statistiques en France en open data. Donc, pour chaque zone de chalandise de chaque point de vente, on venait évaluer la dynamique socio-économique. On est venu aussi exploiter des données sur des points d'intérêt autour de chaque zone de chalandise. Est-ce qu'il y a un cinéma, une zone commerciale, une grande zone d'affaires, par exemple. Et puis enfin, on est venu exploiter des données d'événements pour arriver à recréer ce contexte-là. Et à partir de ça, donc, on s'est modélisé, on s'est fait un modèle prédictif du chiffre d'affaires de chacun des points de vente, ce qui sert à l'enseigne, notamment à ce qu'à chaque fois qu'elle ouvre un nouveau point de vente, elle va savoir choisir le meilleur emplacement. Elle saura même à l'avance quel chiffre d'affaires va faire cet emplacement. Pour donner un autre exemple, au moment où on parlait beaucoup de la dengue, on a réussi à mettre en place une application prédictive de comment allait évoluer le virus de la dengue sur un pays continent qui est le Brésil. Alors pourquoi on avait choisi le Brésil? Justement parce qu'il y avait beaucoup de données disponibles en open data sur le virus de la dengue au Brésil. C'était là à la fois que l'épidémie était parmi les plus fortes et à la fois qu'il y avait beaucoup de données. Et donc là, on a exploité tout un tas de données, notamment un jeu de données qui avait été ouvert par Google. Google, de temps en temps, met des données en open data quand ça vient servir le bien commun. Et donc là, en l'occurrence, on avait des données sur l'ensemble des recherches géolocalisées sur le moteur de recherche avec le mot-clé dingue. Donc globalement, à chaque fois que quelqu'un faisait une recherche avec le mot dingue au Brésil, en étant géolocalisé sur le moteur de recherche, ça loguait un enregistrement dans le moteur de recherche. Et on avait la même chose côté Wikipédia. Donc, toutes les personnes qui venaient regarder la page relative à la dengue sur Wikipédia et idem géolocaliser sur quelle région du Brésil c'était. On a aussi récupéré des tweets. Vous savez que Twitter nous donne un accès direct à 1% des tweets de la plateforme sur un thème donné. Donc, on a récupéré tous les tweets avec le hashtag dingue. Et avec tout ça, on a été capable de construire donc un modèle prédictif de comment le virus de la dengue allait évoluer au Brésil. Le raisonnement qui est derrière est assez amusant. Vous voyez qu'on n'a aucune donnée très fiable finalement. On n'a que de l'open data pour faire ça, mais ça a fonctionné. En tout cas, sur une courte période de temps, ça a fonctionné parce que l'épidémie a évolué ensuite de manière très différente. Mais c'est montré fiable sur une courte période de temps et l'expérience est intéressante. Et ça montre finalement que si on s'intéresse à un sujet, on en parle autour de nous sur Twitter, on fait des recherches sur ce sujet sur Internet, c'est que le sujet n'est pas bien loin de nous en fait. C'est ça le raisonnement qui est derrière et qui est finalement uniquement permis par l'open data. Dernier exemple, aujourd'hui, avec le Covid, on a de plus en plus de nos clients qui nous demandent d'intégrer des données open data relatives au Covid dans leur modèle analytique. Donc, typiquement sur la prédiction des ventes ou typiquement pour analyser la performance commerciale ou des sujets en logistique, en supply chain, et en les mettant en relation avec le nombre de cas Covid sur les différentes régions françaises, en les mettant en relation avec le pourcentage de lits occupés, idem sur les différentes régions et villes en France. Et donc ça leur permet d'être beaucoup plus réactifs face à ce qui se passe sur la crise Covid. Et dès qu'il y a une baisse, ils savent comment adapter leur plan d'action. Si ça remonte, ils savent comment adapter leur plan d'action. Ils vont savoir mieux anticiper aussi d'éventuels
Avec on l'a perdu.
Ouais, je pense que ça coupe du côté de Mick. Et donc, on va attendre que ça reprenne. Ah ouais, il a pu se connecter très rapidement dans notre appareil. À vous, Mick. Donc, on en était à ce use case qui permet évidemment de prédire.
Exactement. Alors, désolé, j'ai été coupé. Il y a mon portable, mon PC qui plante de temps en temps. C'est arrivé en direct live. Donc, je vous ai rejoint avec mon smartphone, du coup. Donc, effectivement, capacité à intégrer les cas Covid dans les chaînes de l'entreprise, ça, c'est aussi hyper intéressant. Ce qui est intéressant, je fais une toute petite page de pub pour Orange. Mais chez Orange, on est en train de travailler à mettre à disposition un certain nombre de données de l'opérateur qui sont exclusives, que seul Orange a, et notamment des données géolocalisées, puisque Orange sait à tout moment où sont les différents téléphones portables des clients Orange. Et donc, du coup, il y a une offre qui s'appelle Fluvision chez Orange qui permet d'obtenir des informations donc, sur cette géolocalisation. Alors, je précise tout de suite, il y a un double rideau d'anonymisation. D'abord, les données sont anonymisées, d'une part. Donc, il n'y a personne chez Orange qui est en capacité de savoir où est à un moment T tel ou tel portable. Et deuxième chose, les données sont ensuite agrégées. Donc, on voit par des paquets de quelques centaines de milliers de clients, évidemment, et pas un par un. Et donc, ces données sont très précieuses aussi. Elles ont permis à des enseignes de distribution de mieux réagir, là encore, pendant la crise Covid, parce qu'on sait à tout moment combien de personnes passent devant notre magasin, quelles sont ces personnes, dans quelle ville elles habitent, combien elles ont fait de kilomètres pour venir, etc. etc.
C'est sur quel pays,
il y a beaucoup de choses à faire là-dessus. Excuse-moi ?
Sur quel pays ces datasets
Alors, c'est disponible en France. Et puis, je pense que chez Orange, il y a des travaux actuellement pour l'étendre sur d'autres pays. Mais effectivement, c'est d'ores et déjà disponible en France. Alors, d'ailleurs, ça montre une autre phase de l'open data et peut-être une autre opportunité de l'open data. L'open data, au sens strict, c'est une ouverture gratuite des données. Mais beaucoup d'organisations se servent de ça pour en réalité monétiser leurs informations et parvenir à les revendre. Et d'ailleurs, beaucoup d'organismes mettent à disposition de façon gratuite des jeux de données qui sont finalement très agrégés ou avec très peu de détails. Et ça leur sert de publicité, on peut le dire, pour ensuite vendre des jeux de données beaucoup plus détaillés avec là de la pure monétisation.
En fait, c'est ça. En fait, c'est pour ça que je disais tout à l'heure, si je peux me permettre de commenter ça, que c'est difficile à partir de source qui est une open data source de construire un service dans la durée. Bien sûr, explorer des cas d'usage possibles, il y a du potentiel. Maintenant, utiliser ça comme une source fiable qui sera mise à jour, maintenue, etc., et construire un service dessus, là, c'est très, très rare qu'il y a des sources comme ça, en fait, d'open data.
Donc, Jihad, nous reviendrons à cette question là-dessus, parce qu'il y a aussi un enjeu aujourd'hui de donner les bonnes recommandations d'experts pour comment on voudrait voir cet écosystème et comment on pourrait participer pour le construire, pour s'en servir et pour aussi construire sur la durée. Et je reviens là-dessus. Hatem, donc Hatem, vous y prenez cette question-là. Vous avez très, très bien expliqué comment vous attaquez cette question-là. Mais il y a beaucoup de difficultés à gérer ce type de projet et toutes ces difficultés, toutes ces contraintes qui permettent finalement d'activer la créativité que vous avez. Hatem, comment vous arrivez à gérer ces équations de contraintes liées à ces sources de données et cette open data?
Merci. Donc, en ce qui concerne iCompass, pour les use cases, on a regardé tout ce qu'il y a comme open data pour nous, en ce qui concerne le texte principalement. On trouve des datasets qui viennent de l'académie, qui sont des datasets assez petits, c'est trop petit, mais qui servent aussi pour nous à faire nos évaluations. C'est-à-dire, on fait nos datasets, on fait construire nos services, nos produits, mais pour les tester, pour les évaluer, on a besoin de ces datasets qui sont open data pour regarder les performances de nos services. Ça d'un côté. D'un autre côté, on fait beaucoup du crowdsourcing, c'est-à-dire on collecte du web, des réseaux sociaux, des datas, mais on fait très attention à la qualité des datas qui sont derrière. Je vais citer l'exemple d'un chatbot coréen il y a une semaine. Ce chatbot, il collecte des datas sur le web, il fait son propre apprentissage, mais il y a une semaine, le chatbot, il commence à faire des discours racistes et des discours haineux, parce qu'en fait, c'est des open, donc il collecte tout ce qu'il y a. Et du coup, dans les conversations, il commence à sortir des messages qui ne sont pas appropriés pour un chatbot. Donc, nous, on fait très attention de ce côté-là et on construit des stratégies de collecte de data. Et des fois, on est obligé à anticiper les open data avant qu'elles arrivent, à mettre en place des stratégies pour collecter des data. On est toujours confronté, que ce soit en Tunisie ou en Afrique, au problème de digitalisation des data. C'est-à-dire, quand on demande des data, open data, ils disent oui, on a des open data, c'est des data publiques, mais à la fin, on se trouve avec des rapports papier ou des rapports PDF qui finalement ne servent à rien du tout, parce que nous, ce qu'on a besoin, c'est des data numériques en grande quantité. Donc, on anticipe un petit peu à mettre des stratégies pour collecter les data, à anticiper là où potentiellement il y aura des data publiques qu'on pourra par la suite collecter et analyser. Et je voudrais bien, si vous permettez, insister sur la phase qui est juste après la collecte, qui est la phase de pré-traitement, de regarder bien nos data, et c'est notre travail de data analyst et de data scientist, de regarder la qualité, de regarder à fond nos data avant de commencer à les utiliser dans nos modèles d'intelligence artificielle. Voilà.
C'est clair, Hatem, cette façon créative aussi d'utiliser ces datas qui parfois ne peuvent pas être volumineuses, mais pour d'autres fins de validation, de cross-validation, et c'est là où on peut être vraiment créatif. Là-dessus, Jihad, je reviens vers toi. Vous avez mentionné les contraintes rencontrées, vous avez mentionné un peu les débuts de use case que vous avez pu développer, mais néanmoins, il reste beaucoup à explorer. Il reste beaucoup pour atteindre cette promesse de l'open data. Sur ce volet plutôt optimiste, Jihad, qu'est-ce que tu pourrais nous dire?
Je le suis, et puis je vais vous donner un exemple tout de suite, en fait. Dès le début de l'année dernière, on a été frappé, comme tout le monde, par la situation du Covid. Et on s'est dit, qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire pour aider, tout simplement. Donc, comment on peut utiliser notre technologie, notre technologie IA pour aider à mieux appréhender en fait cette épidémie. On a fait essentiellement deux choses. Un, c'est pour le cas de la Tunisie, on a essayé de suivre un peu l'évolution, en tout cas au cours de la première vague de l'épidémie, et puis de mettre à disposition ces données-là. C'est vrai qu'on a mis une petite équipe pour collecter manuellement tous les jours, après les annonces du ministère de la Santé, les données. Mais, et là, c'est le cas le plus, disons, profond en termes d'usage, c'est on a utilisé des sources de données ouvertes de pharmacologie et de virologie pour modéliser la manière avec laquelle les chercheurs finalement comprennent le comportement d'un virus, c'est-à-dire comprennent à partir du génome comment ce virus se comporte à l'intérieur de notre corps. Mieux encore, on a exploré une sorte de possible molécule qui pourrait être candidate contre cette pathologie. Et en fait, on a utilisé au départ que des données de sources ouvertes. Le problème, comme toute donnée, en fait, c'est des données qui sont en termes de format pas très utilisables, en termes de structure, en termes de volume. Mais la bonne chose, c'est qu'on ne s'est fié qu'à des sources d'un point de vue scientifique très fiables. Et on a transformé tout ça en une sorte de dataset, de golden dataset qu'on a enrichi, qu'on a curé chez nous avec nos experts et nos partenaires. Et on a construit dessus une solution qui est capable aujourd'hui, à partir du génome de n'importe quel virus, de vous générer et une compréhension, une description détaillée de ses fonctions, comment il se comporte une fois à l'intérieur du corps, et puis une liste réduite de molécules candidates contre ceci. Et ça a été possible au départ à partir de données qui sont publiques. Et c'est vrai que d'un point de vue qualité, en tout cas fonctionnelle de ces données-là, c'était impeccable. Et puis ça commence, c'est enrichi tout le temps en fait avec des données nouvelles expérimentales qui sont ajoutées à ces bases de données. Et là, c'était très intéressant travail pour nous, mais c'est devenu un produit qui s'appelle Drugai, qu'on est en train de mettre sur le marché au profit des laboratoires de recherche et des sociétés pharmaceutiques. Donc, vous voyez, avec un peu de ténacité, et si on a des sources du moins fiables sur l'un des aspects, que ce soit technique ou fonctionnel, on peut quand même faire des choses.
Top, Jihad, c'est très insightful comme input là-dessus. Et très bon courage, évidemment, pour ce nouveau produit que vous êtes en train de faire croître là-dessus. Je reviens vers vous, Mick. Nous avons parlé évidemment de ces opportunités, des contraintes qui sont présentes, de cette vision qui pourrait être beaucoup plus large et qui pourrait englober évidemment des aspects juridiques, des aspects sociétaux, des aspects parfois aussi de politique de développement pour bien profiter, pour bien mettre l'open data au profit de tout le monde. Et donc, c'est là où on vient à cette rubrique qui est ma rubrique favorite. C'est quelles sont les bonnes pratiques, quels sont les conseils pour s'y prendre, pour voilà, dégager le maximum de valeur de l'open data.
Oui. Alors, bon, déjà, ce qu'il faut dire, mais ça a été un petit peu dit, mais je vais le dire de manière encore plus directe, l'open data, c'est la jungle. il faut se le dire. Il n'y a pas un Google de l'open data.
On a perdu peut-être la voix.
Ah, vous m'entendez
Donc, ouais, vous avez dit il n'y a pas de Google de l'open data.
Ouais, exactement. Tu m'entends bien là, c'est bon?
Ouais.
Cool, nickel. Donc, ouais, je disais, il n'y a pas de Google de l'open data au niveau mondial. Il y a des tentatives, mais pas toujours très réussies. Et donc, chaque organisation met à disposition ces jeux de données, parfois sur son propre site web, parfois sur des sites gouvernementaux, parfois sur des sites dédiés, des portails open data dédiés ou des portails de monétisation de données. D'ailleurs, c'est bien souvent là qu'on les retrouve. Donc ça, c'est une première difficulté. Ensuite, effectivement, toutes les données en open data ne sont pas toujours correctement tenues à jour, comme le disait Jihad. C'est pour ça qu'il faut bien faire attention aussi aux sources qu'on prend et vérifier que ça va être des sources qui sont fiables et tenues à jour de manière régulière. En France, l'INSEE, par exemple, a normalisé la manière dont elle communique ces jeux de données. Donc, on sait que de mois en mois, d'année en année, on va globalement avoir les mêmes formats. Les jeux de données de météo aussi disponibles en open data sont fiables et sont tenus dans le temps. Donc, c'est pareil, c'est assez intéressant. Mais dès qu'on va vouloir attaquer des sources un peu plus hétérogènes, un peu plus originales, et ben là, ça peut être assez complexe. Moi, le premier conseil que je donnerais, c'est d'intégrer en tout cas pleinement dans les projets des entreprises une partie recherche autour de l'open data. Nous, en tout cas, chez Business et Décision, on le fait maintenant systématiquement sur tous nos projets analytiques, sur tous nos projets de data science. On a une phase préliminaire. Une fois qu'on a bien défini le scope du projet, une fois qu'on a bien défini ses objectifs, on introduit une phase dans laquelle on fait purement de la recherche de jeux de données disponibles en open data qui pourraient être intéressants pour le cas d'usage qu'on va chercher à réaliser. Je vous donne un exemple. Pour un grand laboratoire pharma, il voulait améliorer la qualité, enfin, il voulait mettre en place un système qui permette d'évaluer directement la qualité de la croissance bactérienne pour le développement de vaccins. Donc concrètement, le développement des vaccins est fait dans des boîtes de pétri. Donc vous savez, c'est des petites boîtes rondes, transparentes, assez plates. Moi, ça m'a rappelé mes cours de SVT de l'époque, de sciences de vie de la Terre ou de physique-chimie de l'époque. Et donc aujourd'hui, il y a des contrôles qui sont faits manuellement à l'œil, qui prennent un temps monstre, comme on peut l'imaginer. Et donc, au lieu de ça, on voulait faire des photos et que ce soit une application d'IA en computer vision qui vienne évaluer la croissance bactérienne et valider aussi qu'il n'y a pas de bactéries non attendues dans la boîte de pétri. On s'est dit, si on fait ça, il va falloir labelliser énormément des milliers et des milliers de photos pour pouvoir entraîner l'algorithme et que l'algorithme parvienne à peu de lui-même reconnaître correctement les bactéries, compter correctement aussi les bactéries. Au lieu de ça, on s'est rendu compte qu'il y avait un hôpital, en l'occurrence en Italie, qui avait ouvert un jeu de données avec des milliers de photos qui étaient directement labellisées avec le nombre de bactéries présentes dans la photo, etc. etc. Donc là, c'est littéralement l'open data, c'est cette source de données qu'on a pu prendre pour entraîner l'algorithme. Le projet a été réalisé en seulement quelques semaines, alors que c'est un projet d'ampleur et avec des enjeux assez énormes. Et là, c'est directement grâce à l'open data et grâce à cette phase de recherche de jeux de données en open data qu'on a pu le réaliser. Et en plus, sur des données assez avancées, quoi. Là, on est face à des données dites non structurées, comme en parlait Hatem, avec des données de photos et en plus de photos labellisées. Donc ça, c'est vraiment un premier conseil à avoir en tête, introduire systématiquement dans vos démarches projet, c'est cette phase de recherche de données en open data, d'exploration de données potentiellement disponibles en open data.
Et je pense aussi la recommandation ici, Mick, c'est que cette phase recherche ne se fait pas juste au début, mais elle se fait de façon continue pour ne pas louper les nouvelles opportunités de data qu'on peut trouver.
Exactement. C'est sûr qu'il faut surveiller en plus, puisqu'on l'a dit, c'est la jungle, donc on est face à quelque chose d'assez dynamique. D'ailleurs, les entreprises, on a accompagné certains clients, les entreprises les plus avancées sur ces usages de l'open data, elles ont carrément mis en place des chaînes de données en interne et des magasins de données internes pour récolter des données en open data et les mettre à la disposition de tous leurs data analystes. Le raisonnement est de se dire plutôt, en l'occurrence, j'ai vu le cas dans une assurance, plutôt que chaque data analyst dans l'assurance fasse lui-même sa recherche de données en open data qui pourrait être intéressante, à lui-même récupérer les données, etc. Bah, automatisons tout ça avec un magasin, donc un portail interne qui permet de faire de la recherche sur tout un tas de données open data, une récupération automatique dans le data lake de l'assurance des données qui sont disponibles en open data, et donc une équipe qui est chargée de toute la partie curation et de la veille aussi, de la surveillance de toutes ces nouvelles opportunités en open data. Et rien que pour l'assurance, cette équipe avait ramené, je crois, c'était entre 3 et 5 000 jeux de données en open data au sein du data lake et au sein de ce magasin de données disponible en portail en intranet.
Insightful, Mick, là-dessus, de toutes ces histoires et de ces use cases et les apprentissages qu'on peut ressortir. Merci beaucoup pour tous ces éclaircissements de valeur. Hatem, je reviens vers toi. Vous avez dit au début de ce panel que on devrait prendre cette responsabilité de faire croître et de faire émerger cet écosystème d'open data et que toute personne active dans cet écosystème-là doit faire quelque chose et doit contribuer. Vous êtes en train de le faire, Hatem, à travers la recherche, vous êtes en train de travailler avec des administrations publiques, vous êtes en train d'ouvrir vos données et d'organiser des challenges. Qu'est-ce que vous dites pour inviter d'autres personnes à contribuer? Qui devrait contribuer plus et quelles seraient les prochaines étapes selon vous pour faire émerger cette vision intégrée de consolidation d'écosystèmes open data en Tunisie ou en Afrique?
Oui. La première chose que je voudrais dire, c'est de penser à créer un poste pour la collecte des data, c'est créer un chief data, quelqu'un qui vraiment se donne à temps plein à cette tâche qui est une tâche cruciale pour nous, hein, les gens qui travaillent en IA ou les gens qui font du data analytics, c'est mettre des ressources pour aller chercher ces data, okay, que ce soit des open data publics ou gouvernementales. Mais quelqu'un doit être responsable de ça et on doit allouer des ressources pour ça. Après, on doit aussi faire attention au côté technique, éthique de la collecte et de l'utilisation des data. C'est que, quelque part, on doit faire attention dans notre façon de collecter ces data et de les utiliser. Après, aller chercher les data n'importe où. Même en petite quantité, à la fin, on arrivera à les fusionner pour créer le minimum nécessaire pour l'intelligence artificielle. Et là, on peut aller chercher n'importe où hein, ces data. Et je vais revenir à ce que disait Monique, c'est l'open data va permettre l'open innovation et l'open innovation va générer des open data. Et à la fin, c'est un cycle. Hein. On a besoin de data pour créer des services. Ces services vont générer des data qui vont être réutilisés pour créer d'autres services. Et en construisant cet écosystème petit à petit, on arrivera finalement à avoir ce qu'on a besoin de data. Et ce que je veux dire finalement, c'est un mindset, c'est une façon, c'est une culture de dire, moi j'ouvre mes data, les autres vont le faire aussi, et finalement, on arrivera, que ce soit en Tunisie ou en Afrique, à avoir ce qu'on a besoin comme data. Mais c'est un mindset, c'est une culture qui est peut-être nouvelle hein, sur le continent, mais qui commence à s'implémenter petit à petit.
Très, très bien, Hatem. C'est clair qu'il faut commencer. Hein, il faut commencer à faire des choses là-dessus. Jihed, c'est la même question pour les prochaines étapes, ou les next steps, ou les recommandations que tu vois qu'il est possible d'activer pour émerger cette vision-là.
Ouais. Alors, moi, j'abonderai dans le sens de l'interopérabilité, parce que c'est bien d'avoir des données qui sont ouvertes de différentes sources. Comme Nick l'a bien mentionné, c'est la jungle, hein, donc it's messy. Open data is really messy. Par contre, une évolution naturelle qui est en train de se faire dans le cadre de l'écosystème lui-même, hein, c'est l'émergence d'agrégateurs, d'acteurs qui prennent une partie, chunk of the open data, et ils essayent de le consolider, pas d'un point de vue données, mais d'un point de vue source, afin d'être une sorte de portail. Mais pour ça, c'est aussi le format qu'il faut standardiser. C'est-à-dire que les images sur lesquelles vous avez travaillé, par exemple, Mick, si elles n'étaient pas annotées, ça aurait été un tout autre travail, ça n'aurait pas été possible dans quelques semaines, votre projet.
Ah, c'est clair. C'était là toute la richesse de cette source, en effet.
Absolument. Et donc, le travail de fond pour tous ceux qui sont dans l'écosystème, c'est de trouver un moyen pour que l'interopérabilité des sources de données ouvertes soit possible. Nous, on a, pour un client, on a travaillé sur une sorte de vision augmentée du risque pays par localité, dans un contexte géographique donné. Et c'est vrai qu'au départ, il n'y avait pas de source claire pour qu'on puisse modéliser ça. Il n'y avait pas de source assez granulaire pour qu'on aille au niveau de granularité de la localité pour mesurer une sorte de niveau de risque. Et puis surtout, il n'y avait pas de standard technique, mais qui reflète aussi l'aspect sémantique de la chose, c'est-à-dire the meaning of things. Parce qu'il ne s'agit pas uniquement d'automatiser des choses, il faut aussi utiliser l'intelligence artificielle pour apprendre et pour comprendre une certaine réalité. Et au départ, donc, on avait de la chance parce que, un, il y avait des données captives suffisamment riches, et puis deux, on a quand même trouvé un agrégateur qui mettait tous ces types de données humanitaires, géographiques, socio-économiques sur un pays donné, même politique, en un seul endroit. Ils ont même fait une tentative de standardisation d'un point de vue format pour permettre l'interopérabilité. Alors, ce n'était pas mature, donc on a dû quand même faire le nécessaire pour intégrer tout ça, mais ça nous a permis de générer cette vision augmentée du risque pays et c'est devenu une sorte de produit pour notre client. Donc, pour tous ceux qui publient, ceux qui utilisent, ceux qui agrègent, ceux qui utilisent pour remettre en open data les données, il faut vraiment aller dans le sens, et c'est en train d'être fait naturellement, je dirais, pour que les données soient interopérables, pour que je puisse facilement, sans passer énormément de temps, combiner des données qui sont météorologiques avec des données socio-économiques, avec d'autres types de données pour explorer mon cas d'usage.
C'est clair, Jihed, merci pour ces éclaircissements et ces inputs. Le débat était vraiment très riche avec nos chers panélistes qui nous apportent des retours d'expérience terrain. Et ça, c'est très important. On ne parle pas de l'open data d'un volet théorique. On parle avec des gens qui ont travaillé sur des problématiques et qui ont vu les difficultés et les contraintes réelles de ces choses-là. On ne dit pas tout simplement que c'est l'Eldorado, mais c'est plutôt la jungle parfois. Ouais, parfois, c'est la jungle et il faut s'y prendre de façon prudente. Mais ceci ne permet pas de dire néanmoins qu'il y a des opportunités à chercher si on arrive à bien se focaliser sur cette vision intégrée portée par les différents acteurs et cette logique de multi-stakeholderism, comme disaient comme on peut dire. 1 minute pour conclure pour chacun de nos panélistes. Je commence par toi, Mick. 1 minute pour conclure les messages clés que vous voulez qu'on retienne de ce panel d'aujourd'hui.
Les messages clés, ils sont à 2 niveaux finalement. Pour les gouvernements, les collectivités locales, etc., il faut avancer massivement sur ces sujets d'open data, de par les gains qu'il y a à en avoir et de par tout ce que ça porte en termes de valeur autour de la République, tout ce que ça porte de valeur autour de la transparence de la vie publique. Et je sais que c'est des sujets par ailleurs bouillants en Afrique, notamment en Tunisie, au Maroc et autres. Donc, il y a beaucoup à faire de ce point de vue-là. Et finalement, c'est pour les citoyens. Et de l'autre côté, pour les entreprises, c'est énormément d'opportunités. Donc, intéressons-nous dans les entreprises à toutes les opportunités permises par ces sources de données qui sont disponibles, qui sont gratuites, complexes, pas toujours fiables, on l'a dit, c'est la jungle, mais dans lesquelles il y a forcément beaucoup de choses à faire.
Top, Mick, à toi, Hatem, 1 minute pour conclure les idées à garder en tête.
Pour moi, l'open data, c'est nouveau, que ce soit en Tunisie ou en Afrique. Les choses se mettent en place doucement, les lois arrivent, mais comme disait Mick, on doit avancer massivement et avancer ensemble pour construire. On a l'avantage que rien n'a été construit, donc c'est à nous, la responsabilité revient à nous comme écosystème de construire toute cette stratégie, toute cette philosophie de open data.
Merci, Hatem. Un appel mobilisateur, là, c'est clair que toute personne devrait s'impliquer pour ce genre de stratégie collective. Jihed, 1 minute pour conclure.
Oui, alors les données, c'est un actif, clairement. C'est pour ça que pas tout le monde le met en open data. Mais pour ceux qui peuvent et qui doivent, par ailleurs, notamment le gouvernement, les institutions publiques, il faut le mettre en open data d'une manière qui est belle, c'est-à-dire qui est agréable à utiliser. Et mon conseil serait, puisque c'est un bien public, c'est un parc public, faisons-le le plus beau possible. Et puis surtout, impliquez-nous, on serait heureux d'aider à structurer les données avant de les rendre publiques pour vous. Ça va rendre la vie de tout le monde plus agréable. Et puis surtout, ça va donner plus de valeur à partir de ces biens publics-là, de cet actif public finalement.
Merci Jihed, merci
Voilà.
Jihed Haneji, donc co-founder de Majestai. Merci Mick Levy, vous étiez avec nous, directeur innovation business and decision. Et merci à vous Hatem Haddad, cofondateur d'AKUMEN. C'était très insightful de discuter avec vous ce sujet d'open data. Merci beaucoup et très bonne journée à vous. Pour nos chers, notre chère audience, on va continuer avec un troisième panel pour cette deuxième journée de l'AI Orange Africa Week. Ce troisième panel va commencer sous peu. On va attendre que quelques minutes. Ça va commencer pile à 12 heures et le sujet serait Data Delicate Process Between Opportunities and Risks. Ils seront avec nous Yaser, qui est RPA Solution Architect Manager à Orange Jordan, et Abraham Koukousam, he's an advisor, Artificial Intelligence for Sustainable Development à JZ Ghana. Soyez avec nous, on va reprendre à 12 heures pile, 3 minutes et on reprend avec notre troisième panel. Nos experts sont là, 3 minutes et on va reprendre. Merci à tous et très très bonne journée.
Merci, au revoir, à très bientôt. Au revoir.
Vous restez avec nous 2 minutes et on va continuer avec ce troisième panel. Data Delicate Process Between Opportunities and Risks. The panel will be discussed in English and our two guests is Yaser, RPA Solution Architect Manager from Orange Jordan, and Abraham Koukousam, he's an advisor and Artificial Intelligence for Sustainable Development at GIZ Ghana. We will have this panel in just 2 minutes. Keep you with us. Hello again, everybody, and we are pleased to start our third panel for today, for the second day of AI Africa Week, organized by Orange Digital Center, and we are very pleased to have among us these top-notch experts who are joining us today to discuss this third topic today, data, a delicate process between opportunities and risks. And we are very pleased to have among us Luay Saleh, who is a RPI Solution Architect Manager at Orange Jordan, Alauddin Ayedi, who is a partner and a collaborator at Orange Digital Center. Ale, you've been animating a lot of workshops and talks and trainings within Orange Digital Center. Welcome, Ale. You are a data scientist at LVMH Group in France. And we are pleased also to have with us Mr. Abraham Kukusam, who is an advisor on artificial intelligence for sustainable development at JZ. Ghana, I will ask you kindly, Mr. Sam, to activate your camera, and we will start this third panel that will last 1 hour up from now to discuss these topics. So let me start within this topic by giving the floor for our experts today to present themselves, let's say, as brief as they can be, since the topic is very rich and we want to tackle every aspect of it. So I'll let you start, Ale.
Thank you, Marwan. So basically, I'm a data scientist at LVMH, as you said. I was being studied in Tunisia, so I'm 100% Tunisian product.
We've been in the same engineering school, Ale.
Yeah,
mentioning.
From SIPCOM, basically. So thank you for this invitation, and also thanks for Orange for this invitation as well.
Thank you, Ale. Luay.
Basically, firstly, I would like to thank you for this great opportunities. I'm Luay Saleh from Orange Jordan. I'm AI and RPA Solution Architect in Orange Jordan. I joined Orange Jordan at the end of 2019. So thank you again.
Thank you, Luay. Your title is very interesting for those who didn't know that we can match between artificial intelligence and sustainable development. You're working on that field. So how can you present yourself to our audience? You can activate your mic.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I am Abraham Sam. I work at GIZ. As has been said, on artificial intelligence for sustainable development. So basically, we are looking at ethical frameworks for AI, knowledge and capacity development, and also making access of AI technology available in our partner countries. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Sam. Thank you, Mr. Sam. You'll have a lot of inputs on this discussion about opportunities and risks that can be presented within data topics, within applying data, within applying AI to drive results, and all the topics that can relate to data storage, to optimizing data quality. Actually, it's a lot of topics that we want to tackle today. So I will be guided by our experts to address each topic in a way that can match your expectations as an audience today. Ale, let me start with you. What's your take on this delicate process on how to mitigate the risks of infinite exploration when we start a data science or an AI project, when it comes to a lot of unknowns, and we call them very often unknown unknowns. So how do you tackle that in your day-to-day work and in the trainings, if effectively, that you give?
Actually, for me, I think there is a proverb which is very famous that says, risk is the price you pay for opportunity. And business are built to create value from opportunities. And it's near impossible to turn a business without risk. So usually organizations today face a variety of risks. And these risks come in different shapes and size. Broadly, this can be characterized into mainly operational risk, but strategic risk. But in our AI orientation, we usually move forward we talk about AI and how it can analyze much greater volume of data than a human can. We can also identify patterns and answer certain questions faster, more precise, but less expensive. But the data can also contain distortions that are seemingly objective by the process itself. So if you don't care about the causality behind the correlation, which are not verified usually, there is a significant danger that like intentional semantic discrimination will become accepted. And this is quite dangerous. And that's why sometimes we talk about explainability of ML model, which could be very important as a solution for that case. There is risk, but also there is usually a way to solve this using different techniques. So I think AI is solving many problems, but also is integrating some of the issue, let's say, or risk. For example, for our business, we are using data, but we are only using data that care for the customer to improve the customer experience. We always share what are the data used with our customer, so they know what are the type of data, what are the information that we know about them. First of all, they will trust more about what we are using with our data, but also they will want even to get better personalized experience. So they want even to share more about their data, about what they are doing right now in order to share the data. So to be honest, I think there is risk, but the risk can be easily mitigated by different and easy solutions that we can apply.
This is all very insightful, Ali. We will be digging into depth and diving into the depth of these techniques and how it can avoid and maximize the opportunities and the value from them. And you said that opportunity, the risk is the cost of the opportunity itself, and that's very, let's say, reconforting saying. To look for the opportunity in the right optics. You've been implementing AI use cases within your work and your team, and you have faced a lot of constraints. You have learned along the way a lot of lessons that today we're very glad to have your output and your experience on it. So tell us more about that use case, Loy.
Thank you, Marwan. As you know, after the COVID-19 pandemic, the government already changed our requirement to registered user or to use some artificial intelligence deeply in our telecom side. So firstly, or basically, we can say we use an artificial intelligence module to register the customer on our network. How we deploy this AI, and we had to think about the privacy and protected the data of the customer. So basically, firstly, we're going to register the customer on our network by using the face recognition and the OCR engine to maybe you can say to increase the customer and enhance the customer journey and about the registration journey. Okay, basically we requesting the customer to scan the national ID or the passport. So we extract the data without any human interaction. After that, we use the facial recognition and biometric analysis feature to compare between the images in the national ID or the password and the real-time with liveness features, which is, you can say, the risk in this cases was increased but we already stored the data in our data lake, and we protect and encrypt the customer data also in our data lake.
This is a very good start, Louay, for our panel discussion as a use case that we will be running and exploring to know what have been the learnings and what were the prerequisites and the must-haves to start rolling out use cases like this one. Let me get to you, Mr. Abraham Kukusam. You are from GZRAN and you work on artificial intelligence for sustainable development. For those who don't know what this is about and how important artificial intelligence and data is to topics like sustainable development, what do you tell them? You can activate your mic, Mr. Sam.
We are interested in looking at how artificial intelligence can help us achieve the sustainable development goals. And essentially, if you look at the sustainable development goals, all of them, AI can play a part in helping us achieve that. But with my project at GIZ, Fair Forward Artificial Intelligence for All, we have decided to narrow our objectives to only 3. So first, what we are trying to do is that as an emerging technology, AI brings a lot of opportunities, especially for those of us in Africa. It can help in diagnosis of diseases, in agriculture, in education, in so many fields. And you know, Africa has a lot of challenges. So we are starting from giving our people on the continent education in AI. Let them have the technical know-how in AI so that they can participate in what is happening globally. Then we are also building data sets, opening up data sets, because you know, data, as I say, is the lifeblood of AI. So we are granting access to data and to AI technology in our partner countries, which is Ghana, Uganda, Rwanda, South Africa, and Kenya in Africa, and in Asia, India. And then finally, we are also working on ethical AI policy frameworks within which we'll do our work. So basically, this is what Fair Forward is trying to do in the field of AI.
This is great, Mr. Sam. We will be diving into these topics one by one, exploring the delicate process, as we said at the beginning, between opportunities and risks. So, Ale, you've talked about a lot of techniques. You've talked about customer and data privacy. We'll get back to that. You've talked about the explainability of AI models to help data teams and other stakeholders engaged in this use case to understand and to be able to explain these models. But from a very practical perspective, what are the common errors, let's say, that you've seen data scientists or data teams or AI specialists make who these errors that will make risks huge when implementing AI use case?
Absolutely. So I think in general, any business project carries a wide range of risk. Risk neglected, of which may result in a team being unable to deliver needed results. And all data science projects have their specific ones too. And it's necessary to be prepared for them. And basically, the first one, which is the objective, or what is the business issue you are trying to solve? Because I'm seeing right now many people are just testing their model on a notebook, and they want to learn maybe computer vision or NLP or anything, you know. But there is a missing part, which is the business value that you want to solve at the end. And how much business value will this project generate after implementing it? we can also talk about the deliverable and the complexity of the model. So how complex is the problem from the theoretical perspective, first of all, so in order to understand it before the implementation, okay? And then how much it takes to maintain and to keep it there, and how much money budget you need in order to continue working on this project directly, okay? Also, there is other problem, of course, which is very known, related to data theft. So it's very dangerous thing that can lead to tremendous financial losses. I think these kind of things happened at JP Morgan and eBay at 2003. And this is, it's a big issue. For us, we don't have this problem basically, but it could be to lead a big problem in the future. Also, sometimes you can encounter a low data quality because in that case, it does not matter how modern or advanced the technology that you have or how accurate your model is if you don't have the right data to work and use it, okay? So if your CRM data is providing messy data or dirty data, if you don't have even a CRM system that is providing you with all the transaction and sale that is happening, so how can you use this model, to work on it? Also, there is also another part which is related to the work as a team and how a team leader is important to, first of all, separate between the work of data scientist and data engineer from HR and even from work perspective. And this is sometimes a mistake that should be avoided while managing any data science project. And I can talk also about the budget that need to be specified and what will be the final output of this budget. So what will be the return in investment based on that budget specified for that project. There are also some other technical stuff that could be specified, like what will be the data size, in that case, what will be the machine that can handle this machine learning model that will run the model, and how much accuracy is needed in order to run this model in production. How can you translate your accuracy and your metrics, the normal mathematical metrics, into business value or into business use case that can be understandable by the business or marketing team that can easily understand what is happening in the north. So I think there is quite different issues, but the idea of data scientists, you need to work on solving this problem and how you can work even harder with your team to solve all these issues.
This is very insightful, Ali. You've talked about a lot of topics here that every topic of them can be a panel by itself. And I would like to highlight specifically that topic you've mentioned of separating the build and the run, the lab and the industrial side of it, and making very concrete differences between these two type of people, two type of profiles, the data scientists and data engineers, and how to avoid having this Chinese wall between these two teams. This is a very passionate topic. Let me get back to you, Luay. You've been talking about this use case you've implemented within a very similar use case to KYC, know your customer topics with artificial intelligence applied to facial recognition, to OCR. And within that, you've talked about being able to store data the right way, to use the data the right way. You've faced some difficulties related to the document scan, to the data, the training data, to the Arabic language, the way you dealt with that. So What were the problem, Louay, you have encountered while implementing this use case?
Of course, this didn't come easy because, as you know, in Middle East, the most of the documents are fully in Arabic language. Such as you can say 30% of the documents in Jordan, it's in Arabic language. So as you know, we don't have an OCR engine 100% or 90% accurate for the Arabic language. So we still need the human in the loop with our AI component, especially we have some, you can say some people can't dealing with the smartphone, or all people can't use the smartphone. So we protect our data, and you can say save the data in our data lake to make sure that we have 100% encrypted data. Okay, this is from the human point of view. And if we can say in for the documents are supported in our AI engine, we are complete the journey without any human interaction. So basically our journey really was increased our customer satisfaction, and we increased our human also in the loop with our journey.
And regarding these difficulties, how have you dealt with them?
Already, yeah, until this moment, already we need the human or our agents in the shops to register our customers that doesn't have, you can say, a full English version of the document.
Yeah, so this is a very important thing to highlight, Louay, because having that step of validation of the data, of the input data there, and after even the OCR, you need that step to validate that the OCR is reading the right data. And that's a very interesting way to tackle this problem, to have high quality data from its input and from its collection step. This takes me to a very interesting question that we've been discussing with Mr. Sam about data quality and data availability in Africa, Mr. Sam. You have a lot of ways, of perspectives to see this topic. So we are really interested to have your intake on how do you see the state of data quality and data availability in the African continent.
Okay, I will want to start where Allah left off. So data quality is a very broad concept, but if you are looking for generic concept, then probably data quality, we have two main kind of errors. So measurement errors, which is basically that the data is not measuring what you intended to measure, and then representation error, which is more like the data does not cover effectively the population you wish to cover. And for us at Fair Forward, we are interested in both errors, but more especially representation error. Why do we focus on that? So we realize that worldwide, everybody is taking advantage of AI to do some exciting things. But Africa, as in a number of things, sadly, is lagging behind in this area. So for us, we realize that all the applications that are being run on AI comes from either Europe, America, or Asia, and the data is largely skewed towards those demographics. And so we have focused some attention on Africa. So we are part of the Lacuna Fund. The audience can check it out later. So with the Lacuna Fund, we are working on low resource languages. We are working on agriculture and on health in low and medium countries. So we are looking at African countries, Asia, and what have you. And we want to assist in building data sets in different areas so that when we want to create applications, we will have the right data set that represent broadly the entire population of the world, depending on the application, so that we do not marginalize a certain group of people. And we think that to conclude on this question, I would say that data quality means that the data must be fit for purpose. And so once a certain group of the population is excluded, then there are quality issues that must be dealt with.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Sam, on bringing up this very interesting topic when it comes to representation and underrepresentation in data points. And this is a topic that we are inheriting from digital gap topics, from internet gaps, from connectivity gaps, and that today we don't want to talk about data gaps if we don't put the right measures and the right techniques to collect data and to ensure that everybody, or that there are levels of statistical and significance representation in this data to avoid these biases that can come after applying these AI models and putting this predictions in place. This is a very important topic, and a topic to be looked at with a lot of attention when it comes to the African context, as you are saying, Mr. Sam. And this brings me to the next question within Ale, because you mentioned already this questions of AI ethics. Ale, indeed, you talked about AI also explainability. You've talked about a lot of topics in there in that area. AI explainability, data privacy also, and you mentioned how you work with that regulations, making sure that you are applying the GDPR principles, for example, into your data science and your AI work. So what do data scientists, Ale, need to know from these perspectives on data privacy? How can a data scientist do a privacy by design approach? What should he keep in mind?
Yes. So just to mention something about the amount of data being collected in Africa. I was before involved in the African context. And I remember that there was in South Africa, like there was more than 12 or 13 languages over there. And it's not a written language. So how can they analyze it? How can they basically make any machine learning model on it? So one of the researchers was just putting microphone in front of a radio. And from this radio, he was taking like 24 hours data from this dialect of, I think it's Afrikaans language. And it's really amazing. So he was not stopped because it's not writing data, but he was able to find a clever way to collect data, even with low possible techniques. So from explainability perspective and AI ethics, I think this explainability is important, but it has even been legislated in some places. For example, here in Europe, we have this General Data Protection Regulation, the GDPR, which includes a right of explanation that have proven somewhat challenging to interpret. But that mandates greater algorithmic accountability for institutions making data-driven decisions that affect the individuals. The idea here is just to give you a high-level overview, because I think some of our attendees don't know what is this interpretability and explainability aspect with regards to machine learning, let's say. The idea is basically imagine I were to create a highly accurate model for predicting a disease diagnostic based on, let's say, feature like symptoms, family history, and so forth. If I created a logistic regression model for this purpose, you would be able to see exactly what weights were assigned to each of these variables in my model. But what if I build a complex neural network model using those sum variables? We could look at the layers of the model and their weights, but we might have a difficult time to understand what that configuration actually means in the real world. In other words, how this layer of these weights correspond to recognizable way to our variables. So in that case, we can think about like neural network may be lower interpretable. So for us in business, how it works, it's that we start with a baseline, a classical baseline, which is explainable, that can be explainable to the business and how it works. It could be a random forest where we can explain each branch of the decision tree. It could be also a covariance-based model where we can have all the weights from factorization machine to... Yes?
Carry on, Ale, carry on.
Yes. Additionally, we can consider basically global interpretability or let's say local explainability given these specific data points of your client, your customer, your product. Both of those levels of the global and local, they have value. So usually when you train the model, you train it on the global level, but also you need to make sure that you have this local explainability for each data point. For each customer, you need to explain why you give this kind of classification for him, why you gave this scoring from in the financial market, or why you gave this client low score for churn prediction, because this will be very important from explainability perspective. But also there is another part which is maybe missing for other people. Explainability, you don't just use it to explain a machine learning or a data science model, but also to extract patterns. For example, patterns that will help your business create business rules that can help your future value business perspective. So maybe some people here can ask me, like, should then black box model be avoided? What about the accuracy of the model? Should we care about it? I think these are some of the tasks that today rely on black box model. For example, image classification tasks are often handled by a convolutional neural network whose detailed operation humans struggle to understand. Even through human build them, as I would discuss basically about it from a general perspective. A human also have built some of the tools to peek into those black boxes a little bit. For example, to explain it, but after the prediction, not inside the model. It's not explainable inside, but you can explain it after the prediction. Based on several samples, you can mimic what will be the final behavior of the model. So I think at the end, so basically, I think it's very important to focus on explainability, especially if you are in very sophisticated domain, like medical domain, or even for us in retail. But from business perspective, also to capture all these AI ethics related to GDPR, for example, in Europe, I think it's very important to start. There is also another one, I think, related to the Equal Credit Opportunity Act in US, which require that financial institutions provide people who are denied credit or given less landing term. Basically, you need to provide them a clear explanation on how that decision was being made. So if an algorithm was used in that decision, it should be explainable. And this is basically how the Federal Trade Commission says. Yes, so I think it's important and we need to focus on it as much as possible.
Thank you, Ali. This is a topic of high interest, as we may see today in the biggest or the most known AI journals or the AI research. A lot of researchers are being fully focused on these topics of AI explainability and of how to mitigate, let's say, these risks and how to explain what the machine can do and cannot do. Let me get back to you, Mr. Sam. You've talked about these representation bias issues and that there should be a focus and a point of attention to the data quality topic and the data availability topic in the African context. And I've seen you reacting to Ali's story about these creative ways to collect data, and this is like the things that you are promoting on your level, Sam. So, what are also your intakes on this? How do you see the perspective of evolution of the data landscape and the data ecosystem in Africa?
I think it is interesting. I can say that we can do better. We are now playing catch up, but we will get there. I think what is missing is also policy in our various countries to push this, and our lack of understanding of the benefits that we seek to get. So for us at Fair Forward, even though we are very much interested in ethical AI frameworks, we are also promoting open data because we believe that we need some kind of open data so that other people, especially startups, can do their work. And we are also encouraging that in our partner countries, countries must come up with data. We need different data governance models that will help us at least collect data, find rules that will help us to actually manage the data, who can access the data, where it can be accessed, who can use the data, at what fee, if any, things like that. We think they are very important. And so we are interested in various data governance models, data commons, data trust, different ones. We need to explore and see which one works for us, because not everything that works in Europe and America or Asia will particularly work for us. We are at GIZ, we are doing a lot of work in helping to collect data, for instance, in agriculture. So one project, GIZ actually has a data lab, and the data lab just finished one project in Burkina Faso where they collected data on cashew to help in the detection of pests and diseases. And we think that we should encourage more of these. And essentially, what I want to point out finally is that the governments in our partner countries must be more proactive in this area, and then work with the private sector to create those enabling environments that will allow them collect data, because misuse of data is a problem. At the same time, you don't want to stifle private sector by putting in legislation that will make their work difficult, that will stifle innovation. And so private sector, like reputable organizations like Orange, I will also encourage that they should also engage government. The challenge is that sometimes some of the countries we operate in, the leadership, they are interested in the advances in AI, but they don't really understand the nitty-gritties. So sometimes engagement is good so that we can actually tell them what the data can do for our countries and some of the landmines that we can avoid. And I think when we have the right data policy in place, right framework in place, Africa can also collect the relevant data that will be used as a source and basis for innovation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sam, for all these very interesting inputs and the role of policies to enforce this understanding of the benefits of developing adequate and relevant policies about data governance to help everybody work together towards an integrated vision of how to make data useful and AI useful for the continent and for everybody associated with it. Actually, Mr. Luay Saleh from Orange Jordan has a network issue, so we will be directing the next questions to Ali and wait to Luay to rejoin. Ali, as you may have heard from Mr. Sam, there's this need to develop these policies, to develop more rules and more explicit rules that fosters and help innovation drive within the African continent. Let me ask you from an educational and from a very practical side. Today, education, AI education and data education in Africa is driving. There are a lot of opportunities that are being developed. Among these opportunities, the Orange Digital Center to help the youth to understand these new technologies and learn these new technologies. Ali, you have been very active on that field, on sharing your own knowledge and sharing your experience. What should everybody do on that side to help the continent or the ecosystem, the African ecosystem? En français, on dit franchir un cap, past that level when it comes to AI education.
Okay, so first of all, data is the new gold, let's say, or the new oil. And we are still advancing from AI and also from a data perspective. So there is still time to catch up comparing to the internet that was already been there in Europe and America. So I think it's time now for Africa to catch up for the data, but also to apply AI and to improve. I think the challenge, I was always attending different conferences about AI and machine learning around the world. And I can see that there is quite a lack of existing of African talent over there, or African researcher or universities. But in the same time, there is different events that are organized inside these big conferences. I can mention the one related to Black in AI. For example, something related to Black in AI. So Black in AI is a group of talent and managers and engineers that are collected together, which are working in Google and big organizations. So they collect each other, and they said, okay, I think today we should start something for Africa. We should start working on the improvement of data and AI and how we can demystify this to everyone in Africa. So they created this. So now I think they are sharing like different scholarship in order to attend events, or even scholarship for the university and the researcher and labs to develop more AI technology. So this is great. This is one of the solutions that every country can apply. There is also one of the university where I was a professor. it was being located in all, I think, all the African all the African countries. It's called AIMS, African Institute of Mathematical Science. One of these universities, so they have a sponsorship from also big organizations. Because of the professors that they work there, because of their research, they were able to get sponsorship, and that will help them to develop more, and they can even work more in the area of AI and their development. So I think here maybe there is a side, let's say 20 or 30% political issue that need to be solved, okay? And this issue can be solved by making like this go and back, you know. You try to get as much as possible from the government, and then you try to give out some stuff. And as soon as we can achieve this level of maturity, we can then advance in rocket level, you know. So this solution of creating several organizations that will help different groups in order to share ideas, in order to share their knowledge. And there is also some platforms like Zindi Africa now, I think, which is a data science a platform that can help you to participate, to share your knowledge with the best of the best expert in AI in Africa. And this will even help you to create, let's say, a team or a community around AI in Africa. And this will help even the African continent to advance even more together and work together in order to achieve a high level of maturity from AI perspective. So there is some work that need to be done. There is some, I think, an event like this where we can discuss, where we can share a solution, where we can basically invite even different experts from different fields. First of all, to understand what is the issue, you know, what is the problem, what is the thing that always leave us behind. And as soon as we can understand the problem, we can frame it, basically plan for some solution, okay? And in that case, we can basically create an agile process that will help us to update our solutions based on the problem that we can achieve. And step by step, we can achieve this level of top expert, and we can be one of the best continent, not just from AI, but in different technology, in blockchain, in medical technology, etc. So there is some work that need to be done. There is some communications and dialogue that need to be done around different countries. And I think events like this will help a lot to share ideas and share even some solution that maybe you, Ibrahima, that you were able to solve and you were being able to successfully implement it in your country. And maybe even our country, it could be very similar from you know, old issue technology perspective, and then we can step by step share and move forward together in order to help this continent and help the advancement of technology in Africa.
Thank you, Aladdin, for all this, for this glitter of hope, let's say, and all this need for mobilization and having everybody onboarded into working together for a shared vision of how we can make more out of data in the AI world. Back at you, Sam. What are your recommendations when it comes to all those ideas that Aladdin has been speaking about, or all what has been discussed this morning about the data and AI future in Africa?
Okay, so I have 3 recommendations. So also continuing from where Allah just left off, capacity building. We need to build the capacity in AI and around data. And that is very important. And this capacity building must be done at various levels. So we need to get our young people in school to start learning about data, about AI. We need to get our policymakers to understand issues around data, governance, AI, and what have you. Then secondly, we need to also look at data. We need to build data sets, and we need a collaborative approach to build data sets that represent the African. So we can only do this through collaboration, through partnership, because collecting data is expensive. And so collaboration will help. And then once we have collected the data, we can find a framework within which whoever committed to collecting that data can benefit from that data. And then finally, we need policy. We do not need policy that will stifle innovation, but we need, if you like, a policy framework within which we can work, a framework that incorporates data privacy issues, but also is forward-looking and encourages innovative and sustainable AI. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam. Aladdin, I will leave it with you, your three recommendations.
Yes, I think you mentioned something very, very important, which is related to the poor quality of data in Africa in general. And this is one of the problems encountered with many researchers that I met who are conducting research, is that data from Africa are poor. Indeed, they are either do not exist in a complete sense, or they are not a good quality in the sense of lacking validity and reliability. If we can solve this from a data perspective, we can at least move step by step in order to find a way to work together and collect easily data set and be able to achieve even next level in the AI perspective. So I think my recommendation, I think I have two type of recommendation for Africa and for Tunisia. For Africa, I think we need to collaborate together in order to find solution, in order to apply AI and data and solve problem that could be common to each other. But also for Tunisia, I think because I hear like there are many students are leaving school right now, and as Ibrahima said, this is a big problem. So I can basically say from this place that education is very important, and if you leave school, that means you left one opportunity to the international and technological level, because now the world is moving more to the digital, you know. And if you are going to basically leave school, you will not have any opportunity to access digital again, or maybe the percentage will be 1%. And as soon as everything in the future, in the next 10 years, that was being done by a human being, I'm predicting it will be mainly be done by machines. I'm talking about mechanical stuff and all the man-made things. So what will be the thing very important in the next 10 years? It's the human mind. Okay, so how you can evaluate yourself, and how you can improve yourself, and how you can work on your self-improvement in order to improve, in order to work and advance and work together. So I think this is very important, not just from data perspective, but in general. So if you can work on that, that will be amazing.
Thank you, Aladdin. So we come actually to the end. We have 3 minutes remaining in our panel today. Actually, we've lost the connection with Luay, so thoughts to you, Luay. Hope everything is okay. But we have like 1 minute for each to close. So the closing thoughts, that's a favorite moment for a lot of people. The closing thoughts from you, Sam.
Okay, so my closing thoughts, I think if you are anybody working on data, especially in Africa, representation is important. We need data that also represent the African so that we can create products that are also relevant to our own context. And also to data quality also means domain knowledge is very important. If the data in isolation means nothing, and so we need to make sure whatever data we collect is fit for purpose. And then something that is probably unrelated to this discussion, but very important, that whenever we collaborate on collecting data, we need to give something back to the people who collected the data. It is very important in building a collaborative spirit so that people will continue to collaborate in building data sets. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you so much for being with us, Abraham. Kuku Sam, you are an advisor on artificial intelligence for sustainable development on GZ Ghana. Thank you so much, Sam, for being with us today. Aladdin, the closing thoughts from you. What would be your closing thoughts today?
So first of all, we need, as Sam said, we need to work on the high quality data problem, which is also a problem for policymakers and for the developing countries. So because the lack of good data prevents analysis, prevent data science, prevent AI, prevent the main advancement. So we need to also create a proper evidence-based decision, to create design evidence-based policies. We need to evaluate on how policies are working right now in different countries, understand this, understand the problem, try to frame solution, work on it, and move forward together.
Thank you so much, Aladdin. Thank you, Sam. Thank you all for being here with us today in this second day of AI Africa Week. Today we've discussed these interesting topics of data and underused gold mine to exploit. Thank you so much for being here with us. Follow us tomorrow on the third day of the AI Africa Week. It will be animated by my friend Elias Manei, who is a Google developer expert in machine learning. Tomorrow the topic will be the algorithms behind artificial intelligence. Fourth day will be dedicated to the topic, what talents do we need for successful and long-term AI projects? And on day 5, we'll be discussing computational power needed for AI. So keep posted on the Orange Digital Center networks, on Orange plus qu'un opérateur, and of course on the website aiafricaweek.com. Thank you everybody for being here with us today. We wish you a very great day. Thanks a lot for all our experts who have been today with us. Thank you, Ale. Thank you, Sam. Have a good day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you too.